Thank you.
All of them.
I'm going to Lincoln City, so if you have problems, he won't be available. So let me know if you do.
It's gonna be there. And I'll tell you.
You just showed up. He's like, wow. Super.
Yeah. Okay, I just wondered where the narrative started from there, underwater. Mhm. Okay. Doing the thing to do. Yeah. Almost like, I'm private here. We'll leave it. So I moved her, everything, a little girl. Quiet. All right. Ms. Bissett, looks like you're good to go.
Yes, Mayor.
All right, council members. They're ready to go. And Councilor Cox is on. Wonderful. Good morning. I'd like to call to order the Kaiser City Council in a work session. It is Saturday, March 7th, 2026, and ask our city reporter to please call roll.
Counselor Christopher,
Oh, here.
Counselor Duran,
Here.
Counselor Kohler,
Here.
Mayor Clark,
Here.
Council President Starr,
Here.
Counselor Cross,
Here.
Counselor Parsons.
Councilor Parsons is excused. All right, thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us today for this very important conversation about our public safety and going over the work that's been done over many months on the analysis and staffing for our police department. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our city manager, Adam Brown, and our police chief, Andrew Copeland.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. I want to express gratitude to the Public Safety Task Force of Chair Shane Starr and Kyle Duran and Dan Kohler for all the hours that dedicated to helping us get this far. And then also on staff, Chief Copeland, Tim Wood, and Alejandra Gallegos who helped make it look so nice. So, there is a piece of paper on your desk that looks like this. It's for after the presentation, the 5 discussion points to kind of lead your dialogue. And of course, you can go anywhere you want. You can follow that or you can go anywhere you want. So,
Well,
Yes.
before we continue, Council President Starr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Brown, you were very gracious to thank the public safety and the task force for their time. But I also, on behalf of the task force, would like to thank Chief Copeland, yourself, Mr. Wood, and all of the team behind the scenes, because we gave you an insane amount of work and questions and research and all the things that we asked for. So I wanted to make sure and get those thank yous in before we jumped in, because you, as a team and under your leadership, produced an incredibly comprehensive report and body of work. So I don't want the thank yous to just go to the task force. They need to go to you and your teams. So thank you.
thank you. Appreciate that. Also, I put the presentation in Civic Clerk. So if anybody wants to have, the public can access it there and you. And then the presentation, we'll get that up on the website. The report is already on the website, and our residents can find it under our news section. So with that, we're gonna we've got this chopped up into 3 pieces. The first is state of the city in terms of law enforcement and public safety. And then the second piece will be describing our police department and how it functions, how it's structured, and why we believe it works. And then the third piece will be the financial condition and the models of funding that the committee and staff can work on together. So, so with that, I'm going to transfer it over to Chief Copeland.
Thank you, City Manager Adam. Yeah, what a morning. This is, as you guys know, a pretty important meeting. It kind of sets the future of the city of Kaiser. So I'll do my best to answer as many questions as possible, but again, just a big thank you to my staff, to Adam and Tim, for all the work put into this report. I mean, it's probably in my 25-year career, it's the most comprehensive report I've ever seen on the police department anywhere. So and the citizens of Kaiser can read it and, you know, just kind of look at what we do. Completely transparent and gives out everything that you'd ever want to know. So anyways, I got the clicker. I hope it works. We're gonna kind of get through this thing so we can move on our Saturday. So a lot of the stats are from 2025. We didn't move into 2026 just because we wanted to finish the report and get somewhere eventually. So a couple of months old, some of the data. Well, let's go. Like, yeah, technology works.
Let's reach that far.
It's moving forward. I clicked like 3 times in some. Oh, there's a few dog. Or there's awesome random gameplay, amazing folks. Okay. So you guys asked a lot of really important questions, you know, as the Public Safety Task Force, and we try to give you as much information as you possibly could. This is basically the top 10 type of calls we take. This isn't all crime. This is just call data. So the main one, and I think the city of Kaiser and everybody talks about traffic congestion, like, hey, traffic is a big problem. Well, you can see that over 30% of what we do is traffic related. And when you have a total of 41 cops in a city and 30% of that time is dedicated to traffic, we hear the community and we listen to them and we do as much as we can to, you know, enforce some traffic problems. But traffic congestion is not a police problem. That's an engineering problem. We have like a couple main roads in Kaiser that we just can't get around. So it's gonna be busy. And I think that those 10 new traffic lights with the left turn signal blinking is gonna be amazing for Kaiser. So that'll be actually, that was awesome to hear that we're getting those. So as a resident, I'm super happy. As a cop, I'm even happy. So anyways, this just kind of gives the breakdown. You can see what we do. Anyways, yeah, like I said, traffic stops, citizen contacts, welfare checks are just somebody in trouble, right? Trespasses is usually with our business community. Field interview reports, that's self-initiated stuff. So that's when you look at that, that's like, what is that? That's like us typically between midnight and 6 in the morning, stopping and talking to somebody in the community that's out wandering around, trying to figure out what they're doing. So, and then ill parks, that's the, oh man, I got the 3 emails yesterday about bars in neighborhoods. But that's probably about 1,000 calls a year, of just cars illegally parked in neighborhoods and broken down. And so we try to fix those problems. And Ben Crosby and Danielle Breitbach are the ones who do this.
Well, before you move on, and thank you for putting your hand up, I want to press pause on that slide. Can we go back to it and the council president slide?
chat through citizen contact, because I think that can be misleading on what that can be.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that,
Sure.
you know, people understand and know what almost 11% of our calls.
A lot of those come in and the address will actually be the police department, so 930 Chanel Road. But those are anything that anybody has a question about that's not criminal. So, it's amazing. I can't even describe how many different types of calls we get. But that is just somebody that has a concern in their life or about their friend or their neighbor that is not criminal related. And they call us, and the broad category is citizen contact. We just have a conversation with them and it doesn't go anywhere, but we write a report on it. So, yeah.
One follow-up on that, if I may. One of the things that I know that you and your staff do is stay very aware of resources. So when it's not something that you can do, you can point them to where they can go. When you do have resources that you know about. And I want to point that out, that it's not just, hey, can't help you, have a nice day. It's, you know, this doesn't fit here. May I suggest calling this or making contact here? So moving people on in their decision-making or problem-solving, I think is a very important part of that. So, and that's in a lot of these areas here that you and the entire team, and I read about it in the report, you make it a point to understand the larger community, and I want to highlight that.
Yeah, we're very grateful for Marion County in whole because we have a lot of great resources here in so for sure. Thank you.
Any other questions on that slide before we move forward? Go ahead.
Oh, I thought Councilor Kohler was gonna ask a question. No, nothing. Okay. NIBRS is the National Incident Based Reporting System. So this is all crime. So this is the numbers that we're looking at when it comes to criminal offenses. And I think the number that just really stands out for me is the big green box, right? Or the pie shaped box, which is 31% of our crimes are dealing with basically big box stores. So the shoplifting is only retail stores. And so you can see that that's 31%. And then you can different boxes in there that you can read about. And that just kind of tells you where we're spending our time. This is, okay, so this one is kind of hard for me to swallow. I mean, you look at City of Kaiser and I thought we were doing way better than we actually are. I liked the fact that we saw crime, about 50% of crime that we saw when we did a report, we saw it, as you'll see later. But in our comparables, we're not great. And I think that the correlation between us being in the top third there is probably a direct relation to how many officers we have per thousand. So you'll see later in the report, and I'll talk about it, but we have 41 cops for a town of 40,000-ish. And
34. What is that? Wait,
we have 41, 2.5 are paid or dedicated to school districts, so we really have 38.5 cops. 38.5. Yeah, dedicated City of Kaiser at any time. And you're gonna just, as we go through the report, you're gonna see like that in relation to some of the crime that we have here. I'd like to, I grew up here, like I love Kaiser. I used to think that Kaiser, when I was in high school and college, was a sleepy town where crime didn't happen. That's just not the case. I think February was a terrible month for us, and you can see that things happen in Kaiser, whether we want to or not. And so moving forward, we'll see. Anyways, we'll talk more about that later. But this is if you have questions about that, I mean, we're in the third. When it talks about violent crimes, we're in the top there. So amongst our comparables. And these comparables are, the reason that we use these ones is because when we go to negotiate a contract with our association, these are the cities we have to use. We also threw in Redmond and Grants Pass and some of the other slides. The only reason we did that is because of the size. They're almost identical sizes. Just more data when you talk about crime data, and we literally fall third at the top every time. Just more data. If you have questions about it, we'll just keep moving forward. If you have questions, please feel free to ask. But I think the real thing that we deal with, and you guys know, in 2007, Chief Adams told us, hey, when we put in Kaiser Station, we're going to get 7 new cops. We got none. We literally have the same amount of cops in 2007 as we have now. But we deal with all of the I-5 traffic, the organized retail crime, the thousands of people that visit Kaiser Station with the exact same amount of cops in 2007 as we have in 2026. And I think the compelling thing for me when you talk about policing in Kaiser is we're not asking for more cops. We're just asking, please don't take cops away. If you reduce our police staffing, the community will see that. So the data will prove that we need cops in Kaiser. The numbers prove that we're financially and fiscally responsible with everything we do. And so, congratulations. You're put here at this time in your life to make tough decisions. So, yeah.
I also want to remind us that because of the ebbs and flows of dollars, that there have been time periods we've had frozen positions. So 12, 10, 11 years ago, we had 5 positions. They were on the books, but they were frozen. They were not filled.
Yeah.
So one of the things that's happening now, and I'm going to, spoiler alert, we're near full staffing. So these numbers are actual bodies.
Yeah.
And that is also a difference in making sure that the dollars are there for this. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. But I want, since you brought it up. This document, this particular figure, I had it highlighted in the report. For those who are reading along, it's page 22 of 91 in the report that's online. So if you're looking at the large document, it's called Figure 7. And I highlighted a couple of things in here that struck me. Had and Oregon City are also on Main, we're on I-5 and so forth. They had enough drug and narcotic violations to actually make these ties. I noticed that Kaiser, Woodburn, and Tigard, who are also on the I-5 corridor, did not. Can you help shed a little bit of light on that?
Yeah, I think you're gonna look at the resources in which we have. I mean, we have 3 guys now, as of the last couple of months, assigned to our community response unit, which is gonna be our narcotics investigation unit. We didn't have that unit stand like the last couple of years. We had 1 person in there, and that was Detective Zaval. And he kind of limped his way through investigations, but he couldn't dedicate any time or resources to narcotics investigations. We now have 3 people in there, and they team up with Salem as well, and the FBI and a couple other agencies that have 3 letters attached to them. And so a lot of those narcotics investigations will be turned over to maybe the DEA, and we help. So I know that the last one we did last month was assigned to the DEA, but it was a Kaiser house with tons of drugs in it and tons of money. But we just assisted in that investigation. The DEA took over. So that was more of a federal case.
So to follow up then,
Yep.
it's not going to show up in this because of the fact that it occurred, but the lead agency then is not Kaiser.
Right. Yeah, we start, like, we'll take a case, we'll start a case and we'll take 1 report on it. And then if it gets really big, and a lot of money and a lot of drugs. We like to take that and send it to the DEA and then let them prosecute it federally. So they'll take it over and there's just a lot more resources when we get to 7 cases.
Well, it takes a lot more resources too. I was just
Oh, yeah.
looking at the list later on
Yeah.
in the book going, it takes this
Yeah,
to get it ready for prosecution.
oh, it's hundreds of pages of reports for sure.
President Frye.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To follow up on the mayor's question about the call differences between like, Albany and their numbers for the drug and narcotics violations. Now that you have the 3 on crew, the community response unit, will we see that go up because we now have the staffing to address it? Or I just want to make sure, like, we're clear on, we have kind of where that data is gonna fall.
That's a great question. And so the community response unit, and I'll talk about it maybe more, maybe I'll just talk about it now. Their goal and what we have them staffed for is problem oriented policing. So whatever problem the city of Kaiser has, they're the go-to people. So if we have a drug house, they solve that problem. If we have a homeless camp that just will not go away, they solve that problem. So they are like the go-to for whatever we really need. But a lot of that ends up being undercover narcotics as well. So unfortunately, town of 40,000, we do have drugs in town. We have a lot. We have the cartel that lives in our town. We have stash houses. We have different things. This is the stuff that we don't want people like my wife and my kids to know about. But there's a dark side to Kaiser that actually lives. And I was talking about it with my family last night. It's like you can grow up here and you can go to high school and you can live and you can go to work and you just think that Kaiser's amazing. But if you look at what we do, there's a dark side in every community, and that's what we do. And our job as cops is to make sure that you don't know about that. That's our job. I don't want anybody else in this, well, you folks, to know about what we deal with. Like, that's our job, to make sure that you're shielded from the dark side of Kaiser. But when you talk about narcotics, you would, right over there on 10th Street, we had a stash house that had hundreds of thousands of dollars that was dealt with by the cartel that we dealt with 2 years ago. We wrote a warrant, we dealt with the DEA, we worked with our community response unit, and we solved that problem. But that house just moves to another house. We had 5 houses in Kaiser, which you know about, you had to deal with it, that were Chinese nationals that literally grew drugs in the house and didn't live there. We had houses, hundreds of thousands of dollars of illegal narcotics in our town. And so we're still dealing with that, and we kind of wrap that up and it's done now, but almost. But those are the things that nobody knows about, right? That's what we deal with. So when you talk about, yeah, narcotics, yes, they're in our town. Are they going to go away? Probably not. Never. But we just continue to fight that out, always. Okay. It's an interesting slide. I don't really know if it tells us if we're good or bad. This is our clearance rates. This is like when you have a crime, do we solve it? So this is in 2023, 46% of the crimes we solved and made an arrest on. In 2024, I mean, it really goes down to staffing levels. Like, we were super low in 2024. Like, we were down 7 officers and we tried to hire people. And I'll tell this, I tell all the time, we don't just hire people, we hire the right people, right? So it took us a while to get people on. It wasn't that the city and you folks didn't fund us in 2024. It's just, it takes a while to get the right person hired at Kaiser. And so in 2024, we dipped a little bit in some of our crime data and able to solve crimes just because we didn't have enough people. 2025, we got back up to staffing levels, and I think that Mayor Clark, you talked about it, like, we're really close. Like, we're down 1 person for the city of Kaiser, or the police department, and so we have 40 cops right now. And so we're waiting to hire that 41st, and 2 CSOs and then a couple, the support staff as well, so a total of 50, but we have 49. In 2025, we hired some folks back on, so we ended up solving about 50% of our crime, which is good, not good enough. And I think, when you look at this, the property crimes solving at 32%, that, I'm not gonna lie, that kind of sucks. That's not great. And when I talk to my staff and the cops, and now that we have a full detective unit, right, which you'll see the numbers on detectives, they have between 15 and 20 cases each that they're working all the time. We have one person dedicated to property crimes now. And so I'm hoping that the burglaries, right, residential or commercial burglaries, I think we're like less than 20% solved. And so that is a main focus for me. Like when I look at those numbers, I'm like, we have to do better at this. And so we have one person dedicated to solving those crimes. And so we're hoping that those numbers get better. So when you look at property crimes, those are, car break-ins, those are kind of your nuisance crimes. Like when you live in a town, those are the ones that bother you the most. Those are the ones that affect your neighborhood. And so we have to get better at that. And, that was, like I said, we're close to fully staffed. We're going to do better this year. I hope. So I'll tell you how we do that at the end of 26.
Paul has a question.
And you talk about 40 police officers, 40 sworn officers,
Yeah.
is that what you mean?
Yep. Yeah, when I look at the city of Kaiser, we have 41 total sworn officers, so cops that drive in cars. I mean, you have on each patrol team, we'll talk about this, we have right now we have 6 dedicated. We're trying to get 6 dedicated nights. We don't have that right now because we have 3 that just graduated the academy. And so when they get on the road and they're useful to the city of Kaiser as a solo, what we consider a solo officer, we'll have 6 dedicated to nights and then 5 on day shift. So really what you're looking at is with time off and vacations and different things, you have a minimum staffing of right now, and I don't want to say this too loud, but sometimes you have 3 cops serving the city at one time. And that's not great. And that's been the same since I started back in 2001, 2002. It's 3 cops dedicated to the city of 40,000. And you're like, well, how does that keep Kaiser safe? Well, it's not great. We do it. What makes it great is our relationship to Marion County, OSP, and Salem. That's what makes Kaiser great, is we work so well with our other agencies that are close to us. If we have a big issue, they help and they never ask questions. We help them, they help us. I mean, we probably helped Salem 500-600 times this last year. And so we just kind of run over the border, help them, and we run over our border and help us. And Marion County is great. And I have great relationships with the sheriff and the chief Womack and the lieutenants at OSP. And it just, the relationships help. And so there's never a question as to whether, like, okay, you don't have enough cops, sure, but we have enough help. So it just takes a little longer to get here because they're not certain in our city.
I'll follow up on that question, then Council President Starr's question. So that's a yes, I mean, that's a yes and. As we're working through this, what I'm also hearing is that we need to make sure that we are holding up our end of the bargain. That what I heard from you is that there's a give and take and so forth, and that's important for Kaiser to be on par with Salem and Marion County in being able to provide that interoperable service, that we are not in that negative, but we are on par with doing our part.
Yeah.
In providing for the safety in this region. That's part of what I heard.
Yeah.
In how you described our relationship, that we're just about there again, but we are also helping back up Salem, and they are also, they're down positions as well.
Everybody's down, and this is state of our, it's like, this is the state of Oregon. Everybody's fighting for money, everybody's fighting for cops, everybody's fighting for whatever, all this stuff, but I have monthly meetings with the DA's office, Paige, well, soon to be Brendan, I think, maybe, but Paige, Trevor Womack, and Nick Hunter, and we talk about the crime in our county and how we can better respond to it and different things that we can do in collaboration together. The gun violence task force that Womack put together, Chief Womack put together a couple of years ago, that is our county. And you saw last month, like, we are not immune to gun violence. Like, we pull guns off of people all the time. All the time. It's monthly that we pull in unfortunately, in February, we had a terrible month. Anyway, so this is the stuff that we work at together as a county, and you're right. So we have to work together. We can't do it alone. And the relationships certainly matter. So.
Council President Starr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Chief, you mentioned that there are times when we have 3 officers covering Kaiser. So this issue of police staffing and funding has been in the media a lot and on social media. And one thing that I am hearing is that people may be calling for service and it's taking a long time. And one example that I saw was that people, and I can't remember the exact verbiage that was used, but there was a concern about, I think they like hot rodding, right, and speeding. And it was taking like 10 or 20, 30 minutes for an officer to get there. And the comment was, well, at that point, they're gone or they're done.
Sure.
But I want to connect those 2 things because I think that they are related.
Yeah.
If you have 3 officers covering the city of Kaiser and they are all on either already in a call or another call comes in while they're en route to responding. And it's a domestic disturbance or a violent assault or something. What is the protocol for that? And I'm asking because
Yeah.
I've done, I think at least 4 or 5 ride-alongs late last summer and into the early fall in all different hours. And so I saw this, but I want to hear it from that subject matter expert, that when a call comes in for speeding or hot rodding, and you have somebody responding, and then another call comes in, tell me what is going to happen that could delay that response.
This is the life we live. We
Right.
respond as a police department about 50 calls a day. So of the 50 calls a day, we have to prioritize what's important. So if somebody's life is in danger or that is going to take precedent over any traffic related call. And so we get a lot of traffic calls, right? Okay, 31%. Well, 30% of all of our calls are traffic related. Right? We deal with those, we do, but it's as we can get there. And when you have 3 to 4 cops who work in the road in a police car, in a uniform, taking calls, when I talk about 50 calls a day, and you think about, okay, does a cop go to a call by himself? Not very often, right? You look at safety for those in the community and safety for the cop as well. So a lot of the active disturbances, we go to 50 individual calls a day, but there's multiple cops responding to each call. So in a 12-hour shift, which we work, a police officer will take 5 to 7 individual report calls. That means they have to come back, type a report, spend a couple hours doing that to make sure that it's all buttoned up and sealed, and the district attorney's office has the information they need to either prosecute or not prosecute, depending on what they do. But they also, of the 5 to 7, they also cover another officer who's taking the 5 to 7 calls 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day. And so they're just running all the time. And so, yeah. Can I just brag 1 minute? Just 1 minute. Oh my gosh, you guys are gonna love this. So, sorry, time me down. The other day I was driving home with my kid from West Salem. And I was driving through town and you guys have talked about these loud cars, right? In the neighborhoods. You're like, I'm tired of it. Stop them. Stop these cars and figure it out. So I'm driving home and I hear this backfire of this car, right? And it's like gunfire. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so loud. I'm with my kid. I'm like, Chase, do you hear this car? This car is driving me crazy. Anyways, later in that day, I got the plate, gave it to Officer Van Cleve, Sergeant Quintero. He's not up there. He was on the previous picture. Ended up using your license plate reader cameras, finding the car, stopping it, giving the ticket, and the driver ended up, I mean, it was the loudest. This has been like numerous complaints on this car.
Yeah.
Numerous complaints. You probably heard it.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, the guy didn't have insurance and no license and we ended up towing the car. So it's like these little victories, like I'm just telling you, like that was amazing. Sorry, that's a little side. I was so excited when I got that text the other night. But these are the things that we deal with, but I don't even know where I was going with that. I apologize. That was super.
Prioritization.
Yeah, anyways, okay.
Triaging the calls.
Triaging the
When
calls.
people call in on what might be considered a lower.
Yeah.
When you look at what else is going on the board, right, it might be a lower priority call because we've got all this going on and it will take officers longer to respond.
It does. It takes a lot longer on some of the lower level calls. We also have our community service officers that we now have 2 of them that help handle some of those lower level calls.
Thank you.
Yep. This same thing with before, violent crime where it happens. I would like to say that we're way better at solving these crimes and getting it out of our community, but that's not the case. The reality is we have violent crimes in Kaiser. As much as we don't want them. This is something that I think that Councilor Drone has for. In this hotspot analysis, you will see, we've done this for years. You will see from the freeway, Kaiser Station, Lock Haven to River Road, and then take a direct left and go south. A lot of our crimes happen on the main thoroughfares. We talked about this in the police task force. That bright spot means we're there a lot. That's River and Dearborn. We're just there. I mean, a lot of cars and people and businesses in that area. So that's where we show up. But you can see, I mean, it really is. I mean, the one on the very far left is Kaiser Rapids Park. I mean, it's down there to the left. And we're down there a lot because there's a lot of people down there. And I think about a year ago, you guys said, hey, can we make sure that we have police down there with the new turf fields and with all these people down there? Can we make sure that our cops are down? And so we are. We're there probably 10 to 15 times a day. We cruise through the neighborhood to make sure, and we still have crime down there. We still have people breaking into cars and doing things they shouldn't. But, you know, we try to get down there as much as we can. Feel free to ask any questions as you look through this. I mean, it really is just, this is where we spend the majority of our time. This is another thing that you guys asked for, like how often do we go to the businesses, to the retail stores? And the data shows 30%, over 30% of our time is dealing with retail stores. So it's a lot. I love Target. I go there all the time. Our cops love Target. They go there all the time.
Yes, you may.
The data shows we go there at least once a day.
Yes, sir.
I just wanna say, like, it's true.
Yes.
Because I mentioned that, you know, between the time when this task force was formed and when the task force was formed and when we met, that is when I wanted to do these ride-alongs. And I did them at all different times of the day and the week and so forth, because I wanted to get a sampling and an understanding before we started digging into the work of what we should be asking for. It is not just a 15-minute response
No.
to target. So I've been there and watched and experienced that. So when you talk about we like Target, because I go there a lot, can you please explain what that looks like? Because I know what it looked like for me sitting in the passenger seat of a patrol car, but what does that mean for the department and the number of people that are there and what they're doing, et cetera?
Sure. So first of all, I will tell everybody, we love Target.
We do.
They're loss prevention officers. We have a great relationship with Target. Phenomenal relationship. They call us all the time, clearly. That doesn't reflect how many times they actually call us. So that shows the criminal offenses that we responded to at Target. 367, almost daily.
So there were more
Uh,
calls than that?
What's that?
There's more calls than that?
There's calls that don't get recorded because they have cell phone numbers of our officers that they just feel free to call. So we have, like I said, we have established these relationships over the years with almost everybody at the Kaiser Station. And so they call us on our cell phones, not me personally. They used to, not now. They call our community response unit, who's responsible for our organized retail crime up there. They call them all the time. And so we go up there and respond to calls. 367, that's the amount of problem. Never, I shouldn't say never, but it's usually a 2 to 3 officer response up at a crime at Kaiser. When you're walking out of the shop with a cart full of whatever you put in your cart and you walk out the back door and you try to load that in your car, 1 cop cannot respond to that alone. So that's a 2 to 3 officer response. So if you have 3, this goes back to your prioritizing calls. When you have somebody pushing $1,000 worth of product out of the store, that's 2 to 3 officer response. Why? Typically because the people that are stealing the product don't want to be caught and they run or they drive off or they do different things that requires a larger response and more officers. So yeah, you're looking at 367 calls, but it's actually like, and you talked about the time and effort. I mean, a typical shoplift report, by the time you take somebody, you show up there, you deal with the call, you get the report, and you take them to jail, and then you come back and write your report and send it to the DA's office. It's a couple hours for 1 officer. And then the other officer has to show up and help. So it's a couple hours. I mean, you multiply that, it's a lot of man hours that we put into these things.
And when you say it's a couple hours, that's just from when you get the guy.
Right.
That doesn't mean the sitting and watching and
Right.
the waiting and the driving around, right? For them to come out or driving around looking for them. Like there's a whole world, so to speak, that happens before you get the person.
You speak as someone who's very educated in law enforcement. Like, yeah, it takes a while, like these investigations take a while, like the people that commit crimes don't do it on our timeline, right? They take a while to do things and then we respond to their actions. So yeah, it's hours at a time, for sure.
So, for folks who are following along in the packet, this is, page 29 and 61, and the workload that goes with these are on the next 2 pages. So just want to refer people to those pages. Counselor Christopher.
Thank you. So Tim, on my water bill, how much do I pay every month? $6.90 for cops?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, just curious, what does Target pay for police services on a monthly basis?
$6.90 as well.
That doesn't seem fair, does it? Okay, thank you. I know.
Counselor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, during the task force, one of the questions we talked about was, what about all the different stores? So some of the stores, names that are up here you don't have very many calls to them. And can we just briefly, with the rest of the group, talk about how some stores just don't report crime at all?
Sure, yeah, oh, man, it's really frustrating, in my position where I'm at, that, there's stores such. I won't name them, but their policy is to not report thefts, right? Which then, thankfully, we all get to pay more, right, for the product we buy. There's stores that will only call in thefts if their loss prevention officer is working at the time. There's people that will get fired in our local stores if they call in a theft at all. So it's just based on store policy, and it's usually the larger ones that have these, national policies. We work really well with our local folks that have like one store in Kaiser, and they don't have these national policies that dictate what they do and what they don't do. But yeah, we would respond probably 500 more times every one of those calls at those locations if their policies would let us respond. If they could call in every time there was a theft. So, but they just, it's based on loss prevention officers working at the time and what they can prove. And the normal person working the checkout stand can't call. It has to be somebody else.
That prior tendencies and policies landed you with Nikki Von Dr. Phil.
It did, yeah. You saw that one at Lowe's where that guy stole thousands of dollars of wire and then he just walked out, drove off in a stolen car, by the way. Look, I will tell you, we did arrest that guy. We did find him. We did arrest him. He lived up in Washington. We got him. It took a while, but we did find that guy, and it's just this national trend of like, it's okay to steal from the store because nobody cares. Well, you know what? That might be true in most places, but not in Kaiser. I will tell you, we pride ourselves and you can go back there and into the briefing room right now and talk to the cops that are working today. We pride ourselves in taking people to jail and holding people accountable for the crimes that they commit in Kaiser. And if they called us more, we would respond more. Prioritize, of course, but we would show up and we would do our jobs. That's the level of service that you guys expect and citizens of Kaiser expect.
Counselor Duran?
I wanted to explain a little bit about this particular slide, because I asked this question that came up was, how come there's more people on the 2025 side than there is the 2024? And it's just because they hit the threshold of over 50.
Correct.
So, and because I asked this question. I think most of the people that are on 2025 that weren't on the 2024 were just under that 50 threshold. This when this popped up, it's like, oh wow, these people jumped quite a ways from under 50 to over 50 in that 1 year. And it just surprised me, so I just wanted to explain.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And it'll change in 26, if we use that 50 calls per service as a threshold, some of those will change. So, yeah, good question.
Counselor Christopher?
Thank you. I just wanted to, is part of that the rationale for these commercial businesses? I would assume part of the rationale for not calling in for services, they don't want to give out the perception that this is an unsafe place. So, because that impacts, if you see Target had 354 calls, you think, hey, do I really want to go to Target?
Right.
Accurate? Is that why they make those policies of not reporting?
Anecdotally, maybe, I'm not really sure it doesn't make sense to me, but you're right. If you see a cop car outside of your retail business, like that many times, it probably isn't great, right? And you want to have the sense of safety and security when you show up. And so, yeah, clearly that is some of the policies is like, just don't call anybody and let people walk out with the product and,
And raise our prices.
and raise our prices so that we all pay more. It's great.
Yeah.
I love paying more. Just money. Just money.
Mr. Lindsay.
Thanks, just from my prosecution days. There's also the downstream problem of having witnesses then get paid by the company to go. And so they don't want to have as regular clerk be a witness, they also don't want the regular clerk to have any sort of dangerous liability intensive citizens arrest. So there's things like that too, so the loss prevention folks are trained to do that. And then they also are paid to go be witnesses in the downstream, so. This,
That's a really great point because it does, I mean, if you get to the prosecution side, it does take a lot, once you get to the court. One thing we've done, we have like yearly, merchant meetings with Kaiser Station. We actually encourage people to call in suspicious activities, instead of actually a theft, like, oh, let's say famous footwear, right? Hey, someone's about to steal some shoes. Can you just call in and let us know that someone's in the store and about to steal something, but you don't have to call it a theft. Just get us in the area, because if they're stealing stuff from you, they probably still sell them a lot of different places. And there's a lot more going on. So we work with them and have those conversations as well. Which, you know, sometimes we catch them and sometimes we don't. So. This is another slide that you guys asked for. Just kind of talks about our resources and what we do and how much time we spend doing. The call intake at PD 2,268, that just means we use 930 Schmall Road as an address for multiple, lots of different things, conversations. Yep, back.
Chief, when you say park, that you're talking about one of our city parks.
It is, yeah, one of our, I think we have some 18 to 20 parks.
And the difference between government.
19 parks. So we actually we try to patrol our parks, especially at night. We go through the parks in a lot, so.
Saw that, so, can you discern for us the difference between government at 69 and the call intake at PD?
Sure, government is probably like your it's called AOA, assist other agency. And that is, I mean, could be answering a phone call, could be going to a house and helping another agency in their investigation, which could take a lot of time. It's just who knows what it is, but it's another agency, police, FBI, DEA. We're just helping another police agency do their investigation in our home.
How is that different than mutual aid?
Mutual aid is when we respond, typically.
Gotcha.
This is the 1,000 calls that we help Salem and County with in OSP. So that is us
Responding
going,
to the
yes,
call because they can't, or
Yep.
they need, okay, versus the government.
correct. And I'll tell you, thank you very much. We have 2 police dogs that work for the city of Kaiser that are apprehension dogs, beautiful dogs. So you get to meet one, he's just getting out of training, brand new dog. You get to meet him in a couple weeks. But those are a lot of what we do. Like Salem Police doesn't have a police dog working. They need a dog to help find a suspect. And so we go help them. So,
No.
we don't.
oh, police dog.
Yeah, they've got a
Yeah.
couple of canines.
And I think Salem has like 6 dogs, but they don't work, you know, all the time. When they're not working, they call us. And same with county. So we have great relationships there. I think this was Counselor Duran's ask, I believe. So this just shows, you know, how many times we respond to different locations.
I'd like to press pause on this because there is a perception that multifamily is a higher call volume and a lot of police activity. This data would not seem to support that. It would seem to support that we're going to have our single family or duplex level neighborhoods have more calls per unit, that'd be a home, versus high density. But when we did this process 10 years ago, or when we initiated the police fee, I'll always remember another chief Teague or with our, development director said, you do realize that in your high density, i.e. apartments, the neighbors are background checked before they get into the apartment, and your next door neighbor who bought that house is not.
I'll tell you, 10, 15 years ago, we had a problem with some of our apartment complexes in town.
Yeah.
And we worked a ton with the owners of those apartment complexes to figure out, like, why are we renting these apartment complexes to people that have terrible backgrounds? And so, I mean, you look down south and I had so many conversations, and we kind of fixed that problem. And so when you fix problems, right, when you problem oriented policing, that's what we do. We really try to solve our problems. When you solve problems, it leads to numbers like this, and you just become better as a community. So
Yeah, I just want to highlight this because of that, misconception out there, you know, when you talk about, different levels of, housing types.
Yep.
And, what we can expect as neighbors.
I'll tell you right now, I think our community as a whole does a pretty good job of doing, like you mentioned, like doing background checks on people that they, you know, if you apply for an apartment complex, you do background check, and they can, you know, kind of navigate however they do it. I don't know, but we got great people in Kaiser, and we don't respond a lot to some of our high density households as much as we used to. It was all the time. I tell you what, we spent probably half a shift responding back in when I was a patrol sergeant. We responded 6 to 7 hours a day to apartment complexes, and it's just not the case anymore.
Yeah, I remember, way back in the day, been around the community for a little while, but I think this was really important that, with that, that effort and communication and an education and manager education, much like what you're doing with, Kaiser Station with retailer education, you can get to a safer place for everybody and also comply with fair housing. I want to make it really clear that that is something that you've worked really hard to make sure as well that, fair housing is complied with in these situations. Counselor Kohler?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think another factor in that is that we don't have a lot of vacancies in Kaiser, and so our apartment owners and managers can be a little bit more picky about who they allow into the facilities. I think that makes a big difference too.
Yeah.
So with all the number of apartment buildings and things that are being built right now, constructed, that we may see a little change depending on the vacancy.
Yeah, good point.
Counselor Christopher?
Yeah, I was just going to, thank you. I was just going to say the same thing. It really wasn't a misconception. It was a problem.
Oh, yeah.
And you worked on that and worked with those property owners to remedy that problem. And so now we have better numbers. And I agree with you, with all of the multifamily housing that we're adding to Kaiser, that could change. But hopefully the education will continue with the property owners, and we can continue to see these kinds of numbers. But it wasn't a misconception, it was a problem.
It was a big
It
problem.
was a huge problem.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, like I said, we had so many issues, drug trafficking, shootings, stabbings. I mean, it was out of control back in, it was 10, 15 years ago. Less than that. But we worked with, I remember Dwayne Dollarhide, God bless his soul, he passed. But he was the owner of a couple apartment complexes, and we worked with him very specifically on how to figure out, let's not just give these apartments away to people that are like terrible humans. I mean, really, it was really bad for a long time, and we fixed that through SEPTA, which is kind of like your anyways, like street lights, like let's put some lights in the parking lot. Let's clean it up. Let's get rid of some bushes. Let's, you know, anyways, it was a long process, but we worked through it. So, and now we're way better today than we were 10 years ago.
So that gets to the point of staff time.
Yep.
It took innovation, it took meetings, plural, it took collaborative efforts to get to solutions that could be implemented, not just short term, but long term. You know, bringing people together into being part of the problem solving process rather than I'm doing this for you, we are doing this together. But we have to invest our staff time into making that happen, and I think that's part of the point. These things don't happen by accident, they happen on purpose.
Yeah.
And it's an investment, but that's what we're talking about today, is that we are investing our resources for long-term benefit.
I think that's a really good point. I think probably over half of the law enforcement officers that work in City Kaiser live in Kaiser. And so we're invested in this community. Our families live here. They go to school here. They shop here. We want this to be the best community possible.
Some of them were born here.
Yes, 100%. They
Yes.
spent their entire lives here.
Councilor Coleman.
And a lot of those that lived here that now live somewhere else, their families, so their parents or their brothers and sisters. So I know some might live in Salem or they might live in Silverton, but they have families here. They are part of it.
Yeah, 100%. And you're exactly right. I can think of one officer working that I saw this morning, and he lives in Salem, but his family lives here. He grew up here. And, you know, I love Kaiser, but sometimes it's not very easy to find a house in Kaiser, and it's a little more expensive sometimes. It's a great community, and, you know, our officers, you know, sometimes find a house elsewhere just because of budget and, you know, time. So I think, Councilor Starr asked for this slide. He kind of asked about, maybe, I don't remember, but this is driving. Yep, that was okay. You asked for a few things. Anyways, this 122 DUI arrests is it's okay. I mean, there's clearly way more people that drive intoxicated in the city of Kaiser. We just can't get to all of them. But 122 is a better we're starting to refocus and get some of the guys out. In our traffic team, we have 2 officers on bikes. They kind of work some grants and do some DUI overtime to get this back up to, you know, where we can actually start enforcing some of our intoxicated drivers. So
And this, for me, this is very important
Yeah.
because getting drivers that are under the influence off the road is directly connected to keeping
oh yeah.
our residents safe.
Oh yeah.
And so seeing this number go up is, for me, important because we know, to your point, we know it happens a lot more. And so the more that it goes up, the more we're keeping our residents safe and hopefully getting the people that help that they need.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, 122 DUI arrests. That's about 6 hours to 8 hours for every one. And case law, I love Oregon-ish, but I'll tell you, the world in which we live has made it very, very, very hard to prosecute DUIs. Very hard. There is so much case law and legal stuff behind DUIs. It changes all the time because that is a white collar crime. Anybody can be arrested for a DUI, and so there's a lot of money put into like the defense when it comes to DUIs, and so that's hours. I mean, if someone decides not to blow into our toxilizer, right? They decide you have to do a search warrant for a blood draw, and that'll take an entire shift. And so there's just so 122, you multiply that by 6 hours each time, at least. It's a lot. So, anyways, yeah, it's a lot, but it's worth the time. It's worth the time, as Councilor Starr was, it hopefully fixes the problem.
Mr. Brown.
Yeah, the other reason I think this is germane to our conversation is because a lot of those come from discretionary enforcement times. You may get a call and say, hey, yeah, there's a drunk person driving, but I'm guessing many of these are going to be from discretionary patrol time where they're able to observe it in that particular time.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, thank you.
And if you don't have those discretionary hours, I mean, the number of police, then you can't do that, which is maybe a reason why we had less in 2024.
Yeah.
Because of that.
Yeah, we certainly didn't have the number of officers as we do now.
That's arrests, right? Not just traffic. I want to make sure that anybody who looks at this. Like, this
Yeah.
presentation, this slide deck knows that those are arrests, not just traffic stops for suspicion.
Yeah, those are actual arrests. Traffic stops
It's-
are way up.
976 hours. So 122 times 8, 976 hours.
At least,
And that if you work
it,
2,080 hours.
I mean, and you multiply, you can't do a DUI arrest by yourself, so you're
Right.
gonna have another officer with you, to make sure that. Things go up anyway, so, yeah, and then. It's all on video, right, so then then there are property evidence and the videos up, I mean, it just multiplied that by a bunch of people. So. This is, I think, when I was talking to the city manager, Brown, about this, like the quality of life policing, this is what matters to most people. This is the nuts and bolts of Kaiser Police, right? We respond to things that most police agencies don't. And the reason we do that is because I feel it's important, honestly. Because I tell our folks to keep responding to these things. Parking complaints is like, when you're talking about crime and the things that we deal with, it's really a low level thing. What we did this last year is very intentionally, we hired 2 community service officers to deal with these type of things right here that matter to a lot of people. And the example is, I just got another email yesterday and the day before, is we had an individual that had like, I don't even know how many trailers from the west side of town, and it was just a nuisance to everybody. Like, it just was terrible for the community. And our community service officers respond. They deal with a lot of parking complaints. And a parking complaint, if you have a broken down car in your neighborhood, it's an eyesore and it's a problem, right? You call the police. We show up. We can't just tow that car or deal with it right then. We have to do a lot of follow-up. We find the car, we find the owner, we try to call them. If they decide not to move their car, we have to tag it, and then we have to come back 72 hours later. And then find out if it's still there. And then, so there's a lot of things that go into a parking complaint. So when you look at, we're responding to more parking complaints and we get more parking complaints, it just takes a lot of time. But we know that. And so we literally, for the first time since I've been here, have 2 community service officers to deal with graffiti, parking complaints, and homeless issues. That's our main goal for them.
Those, I get a lot of emails,
Oh, yeah.
Facebook tags and Messenger and so forth, which I immediately forward to you and your staff. Because A, I know it's gonna be handled, and B, you're the ones to take care of it. I'm not gonna go out there and try to be the police. I know my role. But I think that this is what people will contact me about, because they want something done about it. And I think it's because it creates a feeling of being unsafe.
It does.
And these are the things that are in your face, because you were talking earlier about, there are things that we don't see. You said you quote, feel Kaiser from the dark side. And I think you do a really good job at that, to the point where people don't even believe it happens. Now, we know, because we get those phone calls and we are contacted. But this is the kind of beneath the surface or surface things that for people feel like this is that entree into that darker side. So when this is taken care of, it's like the old broken window. When that broken window is fixed, it helps people feel safer, but also sends the message out, we're watching. We're taking care of these things in a way of doing prevention is how it feels to me. And the rapidity, but also the kindness with which the community services officers respond. I have heard so much from people in the community about how they're firm, but they're also quite kind.
They're amazing humans. Ben Crosby and Danielle are just amazing. Like they love Kaiser, they love the community, and they show it. I mean, you're right, they're just super kind, but they're firm. I mean, they just, they can be, kind of the parent voice when you need to, but also the compassion behind it. So, looking to solve problems and help people, especially.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And just to, build on that, it's, there was an issue where, there was some parking in a fire lane. Been going on, CSOs responded immediately, but it wasn't just about addressing that issue. And it was Ben that, had responded to me, but first of all, that was a life safety issue for, right, the retirement center and the apartment complexes there. Engines couldn't get there and turn around. But Ben took it one step further, and said, I'm not sure I like how that's marked. It's hard to see. So I'm gonna follow up with Public Works to make sure that that's done and it's more clear and obvious. And so it's just not about solving that problem there, but being proactive and perhaps addressing a longer term down the road issue. So that's, I want our community to hear that it doesn't just stop with the immediate problem solving, they're looking downstream.
Oh, 100%. And I think you bring up a good point. I know this is like the police fee conversation, but we can't do our jobs without the rest of the city of Kaiser, right? So the public works and environmental, we all work together to solve these problems. It's not isolated to the police department. So yeah, we work super well together and we try to solve problems together in public works. So that last little one I just talked about before, I mean, we could have done without, support from the other staff that was from, or the city as well. So.
Councilor Fuller?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to also point out that this 18% increase also helps with stolen vehicle recovery. Because some cars have been sitting there for a long time, so they cause it and we find it as a harvest been taken.
It's a great one. I could brag about our police department all the time, but I know that when a stolen vehicle is recovered in our town, is different than other towns or the county or other places. I won't talk about other agencies, but we do a good job of actually trying to solve those crimes. So we can get DNA, we can get fingerprints, we can do different things on that recovered vehicle to solve those crimes rather than just recover the car and get back to them. So we do those things and it's a good point. Kind of take pride in that. This right here, not to add a little bit of, hey, the reality is this slide right here, if we don't keep our staffing levels, this will go down. This is the one thing that the community will see as like the quality of life policing. We just won't be able to do as much. We won't be able, we're minimum staff. We literally are the least amount of officers per 1,000 like in our community amongst all our comparables. We pay the least amount for cops, but this is the one thing. If we lose cops, we lose quality of life policing. So this scares me. If I can speak frank, this is the one thing living in Kaiser, having kids that live in Kaiser, a family that lives here. The one thing that scares me is losing cops and losing control of our city to where the homeless looks like Salem. Right? We cleaned up 6 homeless camps on Thursday. 6. Right? If we lose cops, we lose that ability. We're just running a gun and going to calls. The quality of life policing is what the citizens of Kaiser will feel the most. And that scares me when it comes to staffing levels.
So
This will never go down. This will only go up.
I want to, and I'll go to Councilor Christopher because she had a question, but I want to, okay, I thought I saw James, sorry, Ann. People will say, well, you're just retaliating because, you're not gonna do this because you're just now, we didn't pay more.
Right.
But what I heard earlier is that, life safety is prioritized.
Yep.
So when you're looking at a car that is parked versus someone who is being assaulted or domestic violence or child abuse investigations, that is how these things are prioritized, and if we don't have the whole picture, the things that are less life-threatening in the moment are the ones that are going to be dropped. It's not retaliation, it's not we're gonna take it out on you, it's we've got to deal with the emergent situation first. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, 100%. So you look at just the number of calls we go to a day, 50 calls a day, which requires a police officer to show up. Maybe 1, 2, 3 per call. We only have so much time and so much ability. When you reduce the staffing, right, to these type of things, it's not, you just can't show up, you just can't do it, you can't do everything. So, yeah, it's a numbers game, you know, and you can only do what you can with what you have. So, and in community our size, I mean, we're almost 40,000 people, and you have really 38.5, and I'll get to that number in a second, 38.5 cops dedicated to a city of 40,000. That is not a lot. That is not a lot of cops. That's very few, but we do the best we can.
Thanks.
Okay, this just talks about graffiti complaints and what we do. I mean, we try the best we can to respond to everyone, so they don't go away. I think we pride ourselves in this. In 2017, I was a patrol lieutenant at the time, and we had down at the south end of town, we had 18 homeless camps at one of our parks. It was a lot, right? And I thought, man, that's not great. The community was not happy. So we went and cleaned it up. And then what we did is we were very intentional about not letting those camps come back. And that doesn't mean we're running people out and we're mean to people. It just means that we are intentional about offering services. We're intentional about letting them know what the law is. And we just work in, I'll tell you right now, we probably know every person that by name that is homeless in our community. We contact them and we talk to them and we offer services all the time. And so we just don't let these big shopping, you see when you go to Salem, I drive my kids to, you know, we're Market Street. Oh my gosh, you look at that. You're like, we don't have that in Kaiser because it's not that we couldn't have it in Kaiser. We intentionally don't have it in Kaiser because we do things to make sure that it doesn't happen. So we're very intentional and we have great relationships with our folks in town. We treat them really well. They like us. We talk to them, feed them. We clothe them, whatever they need, but we just make sure that they don't set up these shopping carts and these tents right on River Road or in your community or in your backyard or next to the business. And so what that does is it creates a safe community. When you see Lancaster, Portland Road or City of Portland, you see all of these things that happen up there, it leads to other criminal offenses, drug problems, theft, public nuisance stuff. And we love Kaiser. And we don't want it to turn that way. So we're very intentional about what we do when it comes to quality of life policing and cleaning up things and making them look good.
So I also want to follow up with that too. Something that we did was excuse me, the city council gave our police the tool to be able to manage our public spaces. And we did it in a way that was clear about boundaries. That rights of way were to be used for what they were built for. If it is a stormwater facility, it is for stormwater. If it is a sidewalk, it is to be used as a sidewalk. If it's a park, Nobody lives there. So we did this in our right of way ordinance, so if we had clarity about what we do and do not allow anybody, no matter what their housing status is, at the same time, and thank you for pointing out that, again, going back, our police officers know what the resources are, where people can go, where, and very humanely connect people to what they can access for their quality of life and dignity of life. But we're clear on our boundaries, and doing so is respectful for everybody. And I think that's why our police can then have these great relationships with people who are, for whatever reason, are still insisting in being in the situation that they're in. Some of them, it's not their fault. Other people, and you're not gonna name them.
Yeah.
We know them, we know their families, we know, their families would love to be able to get them into services. The state of Oregon makes it impossible. That's another thing for another day, but I want to emphasize that Kaiser established clear, respectful, dignified boundaries to equip the police to be able to enforce them.
Yeah, I think you came out with last year, the year before on our point in time contact in January, we have probably somewhere between 7 and 15 homeless people living in town at one time, and we know all of them.
Yeah.
So, and have great relationships. I think last time I was with you, I got a hug from one.
Yeah, we did.
It was awesome.
He's so cool, big hug. I love that.
It's just a picture of one of our super awesome people. Okay, this is the nuts and bolts of what we do, the operations side. That's one of our brand new recruits, Officer Gillette, and then Kuzmenko, and our patrol lieutenant. This is how organizational chart. I have 3 lieutenants that really run the department. I have a patrol lieutenant, a support lieutenant means he's over records, property and evidence, and then also the building, anything like cars and vehicle, fleet, all that stuff. And then we have a lieutenant over the investigation, so detectives, which is our school resource officers, and then our detectives. This is what we do. This is every day. This is a typical call. This is one shift of snippet in time. I think somebody asked for this, so this is just one night. We have, at most, the most we could possibly have working at one time right now is 5 cops at night. Soon, when our recruits get, like I said, in a couple months available, we'll have 6 at night. That's the most. This is one shift. Just last year, we respond to a fight in and out. Everybody goes. When we're up there, who's down south? Nobody. Right? When we're up there, I know, quiet, don't say anything, but this is the reality. Like, we just don't have anybody else. Like, this is it. So at 10 o'clock, we respond to a fight. Great. 10:48, we respond to another one. 11 o'clock, we respond to gunshots. This is just one shift. You look at February this last month, we had 2 shootings up at Kaiser Station. 4 cops. This is where our relationships matter. Marion County, Salem, OSP, help us, right? Within 3 hours, we have a lot of gunshots happening at Kaiser Station. And guess what? Those people that shot don't live in Kaiser. They come from other places to, it's like, you just never know. And so this takes time and effort and energy and lots of policing, hours and hours on the back end. But this is just, I wouldn't say this is a typical night, but this happens. This is reality. Just super busy. This is operationally. Okay, so what we do with our police department is we get people that we love to work at Kaiser Police, and we try to get them to retire here. That means they work an entire career at Kaiser Police, and we have a lot of those. But what we do is we train them, and it costs thousands of dollars to get someone hired, trained through the academy. And then we take our cops and we train them so they can train other cops. So this just, I mean, it really just gives a little example. This is a very small snippet of what we do. We have to train firearms, defensive tactics, tasers. 2002-3, when tasers came on board, that is the most amazing tool for law enforcement to get compliance with somebody who doesn't want to do. It changed our career. People, anyways, I could go on about how that literally changes like what we do. And it costs a lot of money, by the way. Axon kind of has the market on that, and they charge a lot for tasers. So you'll see that in the budget this year. First aid CPR, we have to be. You can't be a cop unless you're first aid CPR trained. You have to get recertified every 2 years, and so we have people that train us. We train them. Emergency vehicle, we drive cars, so we need to know how to drive them properly. We have batons, and then 40 millimeter. That is a less lethal round that we use not very often, but every once in a while, people just are really not great, and so it's kind of like we use them. Like I said, not very often, but we do use the 40 millimeter. It's a larger round. It's just a less lethal option, pain compliance to get someone custody.
That's President Starr.
Thank you, Madam Chief. You have listed here what your current staffing, what the need is, and whether it's understaffed or adequate. On the items that are understaffed, and you have a need for additional instructors.
Yep.
How do we make up that difference?
We need to be, we're closer now because we have only one vacancy in the police department. So we just need to get people hired on in order to fill these, and then we need to get them trained. So for example, with firearms, I mean, clearly we need to know how to operate and handle a firearm. We need 6. We just did a recruitment for that, but we haven't sent those officers to the school we train. So we're closer now than we were before.
I have a follow-up on that though. When you're not adequately staffed, where are we getting that training, or how are we filling the gap?
Yeah, we have to send them to outside training.
That was where I was trying to get to, is we're right now,
Yeah.
until we're adequately staffed on these internal in-house trainers. We're sending our people out, which is another.
Yeah, in law enforcement in Oregon, any state, you have minimum requirements that you have to meet. You have to train. You have to continually get new education, and the state requires it, or you get decertified. So, I mean, these are the areas in which you have to train. You don't even have a choice. The state requires it.
Counselor Christopher?
Thanks. Great. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So you said this is a 2025 report, and we're better now. Are any of the understaffs now adequate?
Yeah, we, within the last month, literally, we have 6, we've met this, we're low on a couple of them, but we've met most of those.
Oh, great.
But we just haven't trained the officers, sent them off to the academy or some regional training to get to the point where they can train us. So
So this
we're
is-
really close.
So this is significantly better
This
than
is
when we
as of
reported at
last month,
25,
yeah,
right?
yeah. This is
So
great.
so what areas then, Chief, are you still understaffed now?
Well, when we get our 3 folks that are currently in
Mhm.
field training
Mhm.
and riding with another officer. The one thing that I really, our traffic issues will never go away, but that's one area both of our traffic officers off of a motorcycle is trained. And so that's one area where we're understaffed. I think actually all of these we need to get better at. We really need to just get people trained so they can train us. And
But we're
those
good.
areas, but we're working towards that right now, and I'll tell you in about 5 months we'll be fine. In the sense that we'll have most of these covered. There'll be a couple little areas, but we'll be way better in about 5 months from now.
Terrific.
That was my question is when are we gonna be adequate? We are not adequate now. We are hopefully gonna be adequate in 5 months when everybody,
Yeah, and I'll tell you, hopefully in 5 months.
hopefully.
Hopefully, I mean, this is like, I'm a glass half full type of guy. But if. If we lose people, we have some retirements coming up. If we lose folks and can't hire people back on, we'll never be there. Ever. And you'll see later in the report, there's like a wish list. Optimal staffing is not maintaining, I mean, yes. Please give us 50 employees of the city of Kaiser for the police department. What we need, what we want is more. We can't afford it. So we're not really going there yet. Maybe that down the road.
So one more thing, I noticed on the next page, UAS, the drones.
Yeah.
And that has turned out to be far more useful and far more applicable than probably anybody realized when those first came on the scene. I remember we started with one, now we have 5 operators, and you say we need 3 more operators because you can pop that sucker up and it saves time, it's safer for our police officers, safer for the community in so many ways. So can you talk a little bit about where that's going?
Sure. Yeah, drones initially back in the day, it was used solely for accident reconstruction. So you have a crash. We used to use fire engines, big ladder, you get up the top, take pictures. The drones came in, started taking pictures for us. It was great. And then they started using drones. Case law and some things happened where we started to be able to use a drone with a canine. So let's say we have a wanted person that committed a terrible crime. We have a warrant for the house. We can send a drone in, open the door, send the drone into the house, and then a canine right behind it. So a dog and a drone makes it safer. Traffic stops. We had, for example, we had a stolen car with 4 people in it and firearms in the car. What we want is a drone on every shift. Somebody who has a drone on every shift. What we did is we stopped that car. It was in a cul-de-sac. Anyways, got the drone out, put the drone in the front of the car, looking back in so we could see everybody in the car. We could see where their hands are, and it just made it like, other than that, we would walk up on that car blind.
Yeah.
From behind, not seeing anything, but that drone was able to see in the car and everybody in there. And it's literally a game changer. And we can send that, we can use it for, we had a, down at Kaiser Rapids Park, we had a missing person. It was somebody who was developed
Oh, she's off. She said she had to leave at 10:45.
That's right.
Remember to live stream again too.
All right, let's go.
Live stream. Might be ugly for a minute. I have to get out of this view to get out of the stop screen to live stream. Oh, we still are live streaming.
Value add. That's a value add.
I had to go to this.
Yes.
75%. That was 2 weeks. Well, we had some capital gains.
All right, folks, let's rock and roll. Yes. Some of you not paying attention when you think about the thing.
We just missed the whole family. That is pretty much everything.
Okay, this was it, ready to get underway again? We're now back to the session. We're going to pick up where we left off. Going through the packet of information and criminal investigations division. Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be fairly quick with the rest of this. It's, I could speak, I'm very passionate about what I do and, you know, law enforcement and especially the Kaiser Police Department, but, I just want to point out a couple things. Our criminal investigation, this is our detectives, right, that show up and do, long-term investigations on multiple different, types of cases, but usually they're the felony type cases that have a lot of repercussions. And this is how many, back when we pulled this in November of last year, this is how many cases each one works individually at a time. So you have, to manage a caseload with even 12, you can see 10 to 12, that's a lot of cases at a time. But to have 23 is impossible. It's a lot. So we have since this in November, we have one more general detective. And so each one carries probably around 15 cases at a time. And once they clear one case, when I say clear, they send it off to the DA's office to make an arrest, they get another one. So it's just a repeated caseload type thing. And this is not uncommon to any detective in the state. So every detective carries multiple cases at a time. They're just busy. Lots busy. Go.
Click that connect button.
Now, President Shaw.
While you're trying to figure out the clicker, I'm gonna help you buy some time here.
Thank you.
How many child abuse cases do we have? Because those can be pretty complex.
Yeah, we probably get, we work very closely with the Department of Human Services, so we do what we call,
And we,
cross reports.
yeah,
Right, so, we probably get, sent to us somewhere between 60 and 80 cross reports a month. And we handle, investigate those, we look at each one very carefully, and then we do probably 7 to 10 investigations a month on child abuse cases.
Thank you. And then for folks who are following along, in the quick report, the page just after this one, the slide was based on. Page 52 and 53 talk about how long in general these different types of cases take in terms of estimated person hours involved. So if you want to get a better sense of the time that is necessary for these and start to flesh that out in terms of person hours, that's the place to go, pages 52 through 53.
Yeah, and as our city attorney pointed out, those are, you can't just sit on those. Those are immediate action cases that you have to do right now. So you see the caseload here, those take top priority, obviously, as they should. This is just a snippet of what, when we invest in our officers and our detectives, when they sign up to do an investigation with. This is what else, besides doing investigations, you can just look at what else they do. And so when we're like, we want to retain our employees, we invest so much time and energy and training in them that if they leave midway through a career, like they leave with a lot of different skills and training and certifications. So this is just a brief snippet of what they do. Support services, that's our records and property and evidence. And that's Lieutenant Wayne heads that over, and that is amazing. Property and evidence is one thing that you cannot screw up, otherwise. I mean, as the city attorney will attest, that's one thing that the Department of Justice will come in and run your department if you screw up the property and evidence, right? So our property and evidence gals are amazing, and they do a phenomenal job, and we do audits and we do random checks, and they run it flawlessly. And so rest assured that we are keep up with that very well. Going back, technology is super important. We talked about what we do, and thank you very much for the council. We have license plate readers, we have park cameras, we have body cameras, which I've talked about a couple times. We have them. We just are working through a couple little minor things to get those, and those will be up and running. We have in-car cameras for in the police cars, and so they're dash cameras. We have those. We have drones. We have when it comes to investigation, we have so much super secret stuff that you don't even know about. No, I'm just kidding. But like, when it comes to like the world which we live is technology, right? And so we send officers to training so that if we write a warrant on a computer or a cell phone, we can extract that information to get exactly what we need out of it. So there's nothing that we do. It's not crazy. We're not like Big Brother where we spy on everybody. That's just not a thing. Very specifically, we look for certain things when it comes to drug investigations, homicides, shootings, child abuse cases. We look very specifically for the information that we need, and then we can extract that information from a tablet or phone or something like that. But again, like the Big Brother theory is just not a reality. We don't do that. So. And there's a lot of case law and statutes and laws that prevent us from doing that. So, anyways, rest assured, we're obeying the law. This just talks about operational efficiency. You know what we pay for? Thank you, City of Kaiser. You pay for people. That's it. Our capital outlay, that's what we do. That's like our training, our budget, our, all of this stuff is like 3% of our budget. That is phenomenal. And I'll talk about that. We pay $25,000 less per employee at the City of Kaiser than anybody in our comparables because we manage our money well. Personnel, we have to pay people kind of like the association, we have contracts, we have labor unions. We have to pay people what they deserve to work here, or we wouldn't have anybody working here. They'll go work for Salem or county or OSP or Lake Oswego or wherever else. We have to pay people what they deserve, right? It's just, and we don't pay them more than they deserve. We pay them what they, the average. So this just kind of breaks it down. Like, yeah, PERS, insurance, all that stuff. It just goes up. Everything goes up.
Yep.
So.
President Starr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So Chief, if you go back to that page chart, and someone wasn't able to watch or be here today, and they're looking at this chart. And they're looking at the slide deck online, can you give an example? If we know personnel is people, but can you give an example of capital outlay, indirect support, and materials and services? So we get kind of an idea.
So personnel clearly is just salaries, right? Salaries, insurance costs, everything that deals with, right, wages and salary and all that stuff. Capital outlay is like training. It is paper. It is copiers. It is uniforms. It is those type of things. Indirect support and materials and services. You're talking about cars, and you're talking about lab. You send stuff off to the lab, the crime lab. You paying for that, all that type of stuff. Everything else besides wages is caught in those other three categories. And I'll tell you, like, it's not a lot of money, but it's super important. And I think what we, when I work with, the city, assistant city manager on the budget, we're very intentional about what we spend our money and what we do. And we find out, we don't go above and beyond by any means. Also, as part of that indirect support, material and services, I mean, you're talking about tasers, batons, firearms, bullets to train. Yeah, so, you're talking about a whole bunch of software on the back end as well. So you're talking about all the budget stuff to operate a computer. And so we work with all that different stuff. It's a small piece, but it's super vital to what we do.
Counselor Christopher?
Can we update that one slide so that when folks get this online, to have those definitions in there? I think that's an excellent question, and I think we wouldn't have known what those are.
Yes,
That'd be great. Thank you. I get it.
I don't want to get too much in the weeds. This is just this. Here's what happens. Not sure if you knew this, but every year things go up. Unfortunately, the cost to buy stuff doesn't go down in everything we do. And this through your own business, through your own, everything that you buy goes up. This shirt that I'm wearing went up $10 last year, right? Everything that we do goes up. Every line item that we touch goes up. And that's just the reality. It's the world we live in, unfortunately. So, cars, and I can give you an example of a police car to put on the road. Maintenance, gas, insurance. The people that install the lights and the sirens on that police car, they charge us more this year than they did last year. Everything costs more, down to the very specific line item. So yeah, it costs a lot more now than it did a couple years ago. So everything costs more. I keep going. This is what I talked about before. We pay less per officer, per employee. I'm going more than officer, employee personally. Our budget, very intentional about what we do. We are $25,000 less based on our comparables per employee. So when you're talking, when you want to do your elevator speech to the cities, like, hey, don't get more cops. Okay, fine, but we pay less per cop than anybody else. We are already at the bare minimum. So this is I don't know, it's pretty telling for me when I pulled these numbers and I looked at the budget. So I was like, we do a darn good job of being fiscally responsible, City Kaiser. And we've talked about it a long time. I mean, every department in City Kaiser, we're very fiscally responsible. We don't have a lot of money in Kaiser, right? And we do as much as we can with the money we have. So. Okay, this is where I turn the clicker over to smarter people than me.
That's Rosen's last question. For the chief?
Yep.
Here was some information out in the public, several months ago. That I want to. Get your subject matter expertise opinion on. And one of those was, that. We are not understaffed based on best practices of officer per 1,000 residents. I have heard conflicting information, as is typical, you know, when something gets out there that's not maybe accurate. But could you, as the subject matter expert, tell us what that best practice staffing standard is?
Sure. So if you look nationally, there's kind of this ratio of officer per 1,000, right? And you should be about 1.5 officers per 1,000. We're not even close to that. So, but that is not a good standard in which you should police. So the Oregon Association of Chiefs of Police, the National Association of Chiefs of Police have put out this, kind of this standard, like, you should. Let me put it this way. So if we were to match the national average of cops in relationship to the population size, we would have about 55 cops. Sworn personnel. That would be like the national average. We don't use that as an indicator of how many cops we should have in the city of Kaiser, because we want to do that by what Kaiser needs. So we have 41 cops, which is way less than a national average. But, you know, and I talked to Kaiser Times, the West Sides, about some of these things, and he pushes back. He's like, well, how many cops do you actually need? We're kind of right at what we need. What we want is more. We can't afford more. When we have 41 cops, and 2.5 of those cops by definition and job description are dedicated to the school district, all of the school district, meaning all, you know, 40,000 students, they are the only dedicated cops in Marion County that are dedicated to school system. So we really have 38 law enforcement sworn officers in our town that are dedicated to the city of Kaiser. We just base that on calls for service, the expectation of what you fine folks expect us to do, and what we can manage. And that's how many cops we need. It's really just it's very informed statistics and data and time allocation is kind of what we do. And it's like when we max out our cops and they're so busy they can't do anything else, we need more cops. Right? So we don't go by the national average, we don't go by a number, we just go by what makes sense and what the data can prove. And we're there. I mean, we're there. We're right there. We're that optimal staffing in section 9 at the very end, when I asking for 4 more employees, like down the road, we're gonna need more cops. There's no doubt. But right now, if we go less than what we have now, stuff is gonna be messed out.
Thank you for that. There is a philosophy of it, you know, everything has its tipping point.
Yep.
Where, in your opinion, are we at on that relative tipping point? Like, so you're saying that we're okay, right? But how close are we to that tipping point where we're not okay?
It's pretty close. I mean, it depends on the day too. I mean, you ask our folks that are working and handling investigations and running and going from call to call to call. There's some days we're way under that tipping point, right? Where we're understaffed and we're like just running crazy. And there's some days where we're fine. But we're at the bare minimum. I mean, honestly, we've had 50 employees at the city of Kaiser for over 25 years. We have not gotten smaller, city of Kaiser. Our police department has not. We don't have more employees. We're asked to do more. I could give you a list of 1,000 different calls that we're asked to do these days. We're asked to do more with less. We have the same number of cops as when I got hired in 2002. That's a long time in a big city of not growing a police department. And literally where we're sitting at, and I've talked to, you know, City Manager Brown and Tim Wood about like financially, like we can't ask for more. We're at the point where we can't afford more. If we could afford more, yeah, give us more cops. Keep our community safer. The stats will show that we're not where we want to be, crime wise. We want to lower those stats. We want to lower the crime in Kaiser. We want the Kaiser to be safer. We're not there. We're managing a community. We're managing, and what we're asking for is just maintain what we have. In the future, if we get like, you know, win the lottery, great. Yeah, give us more cops, give us more. We'll do more. We'll be better. We're just asking to keep us where we're at. Because if we go below, this won't be Kaiser that you know. If we lose a bunch of funding, it'll be tough. It'll be tough. We'll manage, and we love Kaiser. We live in Kaiser. We'll do the best we can, but we can only do the best we can with what we have.
Brown.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council. Talk about the financial conditions, how we got to where we're at, and then also some modeling that we've done with how to restructure our fees for ways to potentially pay for the existing level of service that we have. So I put these things up here in not in accusation mode. I put these in here as in these are the things that the council and the staff have done to keep the burden down from our residents. So we used ARPA to push our hold down the road. We used our fund balance to push down the road. Again, this is with the goal of saving our taxpayers' money. And we kept our fees low, again, to take care of our residents. But ultimately, Measure 5, Measure 50, Measure 47 are all caught up to us like other cities. In addition to having frozen tax rate, which is one of those laws. But so the city council's done well at trying to push it off, and we've been able to keep our fees as much lower than a lot of other places. But even a couple of years ago, when Salem was going through the same challenges, people asked if that was going to be impacting us, and I said, yeah, we're just a couple of years behind them because we've been using resources that we have on hand to keep the burden off of the taxpayers. So, and so this is I think I'll work on a better graphic, but this is just a line. You'll appreciate this, Councilor Christopher. I tried to use AI for this graphic. Yeah, that's what I got. So we'll probably get a bit fun for that. But
Well, it's easy to understand, isn't it?
it is. That point on the line is where Kaiser's tax rate is compared to the other 241 cities in the state. Which range all the way from like 24 cents per $1,000 with assessed value to over $10 assessed value. So we've had a low tax rate, and that's something we've been proud of, but that also becomes a factor because that tax rate is frozen. So another reason how we got to where we're at is looking at these percentages of inflation versus our own tax base growth. And this is something actually I don't think I put in the paper, but we might add that to the white paper. Seeing that in 2022, we had a 7.7% inflation, and this is based on our West Coast average. versus the appreciation we were getting on our property tax, which is our number one income at between 3.2% and 3.5% for those 4 years. And this just next couple slides show you how we've used our property tax to how we've kept it low. But this one drives home the point of measures 5 and 50, how the maroon or the darkest bar there is what our assessed value is, while the real market value of our properties has gone up in the yellow bars. And then the line is the average assessed value percent change. So you can see that it has held around that 3% mark for the last 6 years. And while property values have escalated. So in other words, our costs have been kept low with comparison to the inflation of other items, as the chief mentioned earlier, some of our cost of materials. And this is something that a graph that we've updated every year for the budget committee that shows our trajectory over the next 5 years. And it also shows this green is our ending fund balance, and the reserve recommendation is at this maroonish bar on your eyes. The color is just a little different from my screen and on those screens, but ideally that green shaded area needs to be kept at the that dark bar. And it's okay to use fund balance in our surplus as long as we're keeping our reserves at that dark bar.
And just one thing, that big peak, that is ARPA, that was that influx of ARPA dollars, is that correct? This was a one-time surge that came from the federal government.
Yep.
So that's not something we're gonna see happen again, but people watching going, where, God, we got all this money. But that was that point in time was the federal government said, here, well, 8.8 million, go.
Yeah, and it was the under two different administrations. The first under the first Trump administration, there was some money that came down, and then the ARPA money is from the Biden administration. So yeah, the influx on two different occasions.
Right, and we've been spending those down. Councilor Christopher.
Thank you. On the prior slide, sorry, can we go? Yeah, that slide. So that's not just us, that's every Oregon city because of the way that the legislation was passed for those three about
547.50.
thanks,
Yep.
547 and 50.
So
Everybody's here because of the way that they determined, had it been determined, if we kept up with real market value, we'd be fine.
that's right.
But the way that they determine when a brand new house is built and I paid $500,000 for that brand new house, that's not what I'm assessed in taxes. I'm assessed at a weird convoluted formula of the folks around me. So if I build that in Southeast Kaiser where there is great big lots and older homes, those older homes are going to be assessed at far less than my brand new $500,000 home. And I get the benefit of that.
Yeah.
But we don't, and that's every Oregon city.
That's what, but this graph is Kaiser specific, but it would look exactly the same
Exactly.
for every other
I just wanted to make
city in the state.
the point, it's not just us. This was legislation that was poorly written in terms of, or it could have been administrative rule, I don't know how.
This was a constitutional amendment by the measure,
The formula,
the formula.
what I think was
Yeah.
administrative rule,
That was rule.
and
Yeah.
that's what's killing us. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we call the CPR, the change property ratio, because it gives you a heart attack. That one.
I think we're somewhere around 53% assessed value to real market value.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the ballpark. No. And so this is what's happening with our expenses going up and the gap that we need to figure out the reason why we're meeting here on Saturday. They felt you and staff felt so important, critical as a need. So alternatives we've been preempted by raising property taxes and even realizing the appreciation on existing property taxes. And so that's left only a couple alternatives. The council approved fee or an operating levy. And so one goes, thanks, sorry. One of them goes on your city services bill, the other one would go on your county property tax bill. So we looked at a levy as staff, not requested by a council, but just for comparison's sake of what it would take. And for this larger analysis of our needs and solutions. And what we came up with is it would need a 5-year tax rate operational levy of $1.23 to keep up with that gap, to fill that gap.
Council Christopher.
So just as a comparison, I don't have an opinion yet as to whether it's a fee increase or a levy increase, but I will say that our Kaiser Fire District has operated on levies for as long as I can remember. And the current levy was just approved, I want to say 23, I believe, and it went from approximately 50 cents to $1. So right now we have, so you said $1.23, and that sounds like a big number.
Yeah.
Just so everyone is informed, we're already paying a big number for Kaiser Fire District at $1. Okay,
Yeah.
On top of the tax base.
correct.
Right. Go ahead.
And just to clarify, they have a different property tax rate than we do,
Correct.
right? Or their permanent rate
Oh,
is different than ours.
yes, as a special taxing district.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Now, I think this probably helps put this in perspective too, the range of city taxes. If we were to add $1.23 to that line, we would still be south of the mean of all the cities in the state.
Mhm.
Okay, so we did a lot of research on fees and frankly, I don't think there's been a robust of research on fees across the state as we've put together here. It was serendipitous that that's a word Chief Teague taught me that just this past week, the city managers asked, hey, is anybody done collected it, who has fees and stuff? And so I shared this across our listserv, and it was very helpful to them. But I know I have not captured all of them, even with the ones that I did make contact with, searched on the internet, contact with city managers, finance directors. But right now, 45 cities that I so far have some fee or another. 15 of those were police only. 6 were fire only, and then 12 were public safety, where there's police and fire. And then we're seeing more go to a city services fee, which for many of those communities, it was they had police only and not fire. So, but it's some combination. And the city services
No,
doesn't
wait,
restrict them.
the city services fee was,
The city services fee could be used for anything in
Oh.
the general fund.
an aggregate,
Mm-hmm.
so it could be parks, police, fire. Okay,
Yeah, it could be any of them.
that's what you meant.
7 of them had parks fees, and then a big need, which we are fortunate to not have this, is 16 of them have street fees or and one of the reasons we're fortunate there is because we're such a bedroom community, and most of the transportation dollars come per capita. That helps us with our funding, where we are not, as I was in another city in Oregon, Houseport, where we only could afford the staff, but not to actually improve the streets every year. So
Well, and just as a side note too, our street fund, those dollars come from the state allocation of gas tax. So that's not your property tax, this is what you pay at pump. And then 20% in the 50-30-20 allocation from the state, we get 20% of the gas tax comes here for our street fund. Councilor Christopher?
So Adam. So you researched, there's what, 250 cities? Okay,
Mhm.
and only 45 have fees?
Yeah, that's not, I'm sure I haven't captured all of them. If I had to guess, there's probably another half dozen to 10.
But still, that's surprising, isn't
Mhm.
it? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, some of them have a lot higher tax base than we do, but look at the
Yeah.
permanent tax base. Like Woodburn is over $6 versus.
I think we're the lowest in Oregon.
Right, and Woodburn's a good comparison too, because they have a fire district also like us, so
Mhm.
it's separate, so that tax rate is 3 times
Yeah.
as much.
Interesting.
And then you throw Amazon in there and it's
Yeah.
looks even better.
Party.
So a point that was made earlier, when the city set the public safety fee. It was at a flat rate, which was not uncommon. Most cities, when they started implementing these fees, did it at a flat rate. So right now, our police fee is $6.90. And I tried to use some examples in here where we're not Kaiser. So here's a Costco. If we had a Costco here, you can plug in any other big box building here. It would be the same rate, $6.90 versus this small cute Rambler, who also pays $6.90 a month. So there's advantages and disadvantages to fees versus levies. Fees is something that is easier to implement and stable, predictable. It's something that can be adjusted. You have a little bit more control over fees in terms of getting discounts or exceptions. The disadvantages is it is on the backs of the property owners or the utility users. And that we've seen some dissatisfaction. I don't think anybody likes to have extra fees on a bill. So they probably wouldn't like, or any of us probably wouldn't like an extra percentage on our property tax bill either. So they can be considered regressive if they're just flat across the population. And establishing a fair and transparent structure can be complex, as I'll show you on some future slides here, how cities have approached that.
I've got a comment, I'll go to Councilor Christopher. One of the things with the fees is that the properties that are tax exempt, property tax exempt, but are receiving services on a fee, they're paying. Because those properties that are property tax exempt receive service. So under fees, they pay alongside everybody else. And I think that's been one of the things that was discussed when we first implemented this is we're all sharing the load. And receiving service, so that was also one of the differences between fee versus property tax. The other was, and we'll probably get into it, is that on the property tax, because you touched on it with the assessed value, they're wildly different between houses in Kaiser. So that if my house is assessed X and this house is assessed Y, they're paying wildly different amounts on the levy, but the same amount on a fee. So those are a couple of the things that, when you were looking at these differences, levies versus fees, that we can look at as well. Councilor Christopher.
I was just gonna say, make a comment regarding the disadvantages or the dissatisfaction with fees and or levies. I believe that folks don't want to be burdened with extra taxes for something they don't see value in. I can't imagine that this community or any other community, once you've got the type of reporting that we've been presented with today, I can't imagine that people are going to say, or be, I mean, no, we're not, no one's gonna like paying more, but we're going to understand it and value the services that we're receiving. And you can, the chief did a great job of saying, you want to be Portland, you want to be Salem, you want to stay Kaiser. And I hear constantly what a great job our police department does and how we keep our city clean and safe. I, like you, was surprised to see how that we were in the top third in violent crime. Shocking, because it doesn't feel that way. So I disagree a little bit in that if you were adding that on for a like to rather than a have to, and I don't think anybody would dispute that competent and police services are a have to. Thanks.
I wouldn't dispute that either. Point well made. So looking at levies, on the other hand, the advantages that there's direct voter involvement, they make the decision. It's locked in for 5 years, so you don't have to keep readdressing it every year. It can be tailored towards specific needs. And property taxes are based on size and value. On the disadvantage side, some of these are kind of the same as on the other. It is a little bit slower to implement. If you go to a vote, then you have to wait for the taxing cycle for it to kick in. And then you better hope you got it right, because you can only do that every 5 years, and you're gonna live that. And on the levy side, you don't control discounts and exemptions or which you do have some ability on fees. And then the alignment may not be consistent with the use when it comes to levies.
Adam?
Yeah.
I'll pop back. I'm gonna push back a little bit, because I did make the comment about property tax, the comment that is based on size and value. Because of the chain property ratio and because of the wild differences in assessed values in comparable properties. Property taxes really are not based on size and value across the board. Residential does not pay the same thing. It's wildly different, and it really has everything to do about when the property was built and when it was assessed, and we're seeing bigger and bigger differences between comparable properties as we get farther and farther out from 1996. Our mortgage lenders can give us a very, very detailed and comprehensive presentation on exactly how bad that is when we have redlining occurring just because of property taxes within a community. So in concept is size and value, but not really. And the other piece that I didn't see in here, but we may need to keep in mind is that property taxes paid by commercial generally pay the freight, if you will, for the services. Residential for a very long time, the data that I've looked at goes back a couple of decades, has not kept up with paying the cost of delivering services. So property taxes, because of 547 and 50, took something that was marginal and has shifted it way out of alignment with being able to pay for services in a logical fashion. But we have been able to ride, and some cities that have more commercial property are less hurting because they have more property tax coming in to offset the cost of providing services. When you have to provide for residential, our taxes don't cover it. Generally, it's like about $1 to $1.30. Property tax, pay for $1.30 worth of services.
And so in the size and value, I think is offset with the bottom on the disadvantage, which because of those preemptions through state law, it doesn't necessarily align with the use. So otherwise if that weren't so, it may. So our task is, well, how do we distribute the cost to the folks who are using the resources? And so as I was doing this research, I found a lot of different ways in which cities are trying to address that under the fee model. So some of them use equivalent dwelling unit, which is based on their water or wastewater. Some of them use equivalent residential unit, which different terms, also some of them based on water, some of them based on wastewater. Some were based on annual average daily trips using some engineering guidebook that says if it's a commercial use and it's this big, then that amounts to this many trips. And so that's another one. Some I thought were interesting that didn't make sense to me were water meter size or water pipe size. And you think about a car wash that has a fairly small footprint, uses a large amount of water versus Target, who I probably uses less water than the full car wash. Even though the size is so much bigger.
Christopher?
These are police fee models?
Models across all those different fees. Yeah,
Oh,
some of them.
any
were-
fees.
Mhm.
These are the strategies they've used to establish those
Yeah.
fees. So not for, because I'm with you. I'm what, water pipe size to establish a police fee? Okay, so they're any fees.
Yeah, that covered all the 45 different
Oh.
cities. Yeah.
And we currently use for water and sewer, we use EDU, don't we?
We call it ESUs, so equivalent service unit.
Okay.
Which is stormwater, which we have, I did not find anybody else that used the stormwater. But I feel like we have a case that we can make where that makes the most sense. And it's more sense than some of these other models that have been used.
Okay, thanks.
So yeah, our stormwater is based on the equivalent service unit. And it's based on the hard surface, impervious surface, which is your roofs and your paved parts. And I think in my own mind, I can make a case that we generally respond to places where there's pavement and there's buildings.
Yeah.
We don't go to the woods very often. Those
Kaiser Rapids.
Kaiser Rapids.
Yeah, Kaiser Rapids, that's 90% green and pristine.
yeah. So that's kind of the rationale that we use to develop this model in consultation with the TASFE. And so let's explain what an ESU is. So a home is one ESU. And what we try to do is then make that equivalent onto a business or any type of property use, whether it's a government building, a school, a business, what are the equivalent service units for that size of a building based on what a home is. And our home is based on 3,000 square foot house. So, and that would, what?
And so it's impervious surface, so it's the rooftop, paved driveway, garage, things like that, when you pour water on it, the water has to go someplace else.
Yeah, and we use that for an average, not, so every residential unit, a house and apartments and duplexes, row houses are all considered one ESU as far as our stormwater fee goes. So we only apply that to the other properties.
Like multifamily, there's a multiplier. So
For the apartments?
yeah,
That is correct, yes.
so that's based on the number
Multifamily.
of storefronts, and then there's a calculation that goes into figuring out the ESUs for, say, a multifamily, which is different, charged differently than for a single family detached.
That is correct. We actually have field staff go out and take measurements of impervious surface for anything other than a single family residential. I think duplexes are also counted single family, but everything else, we actually send folks out to do the calculation.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll have to correct that in this slide. So let's see. So we're still, yeah. Apply that to our community. This is a rate model that Tim came up with feedback from the Public Safety Task Force. And it was a tiered rate where you would pay by ESU, but within brackets of ESUs. So 1 to 9 ESUs would pay $20, and we're looking at the next year. So a single family would go from, where we're at 690 to 1225 into this model, to a commercial with 1 to 9 ESUs, $20 per ESU. 10 to 50, $22.50 per ESU, and then 50 plus to $25 per ESU.
And then multifamily, we understand that that is, that's your ESU, but a multifamily development that's going to have multiple ESUs, correct? Okay. Councilor Christopher.
So why would commercial pay $20 per ESU? Why wouldn't they just pay for, if they've got 9 ESUs, why wouldn't it just be $12 times 9? What's the difference?
That is, when we looked at our call volume that lined it up, that would certainly also add, just import the burden on them. But that would have, you would have to average that out on the backs of the residences to reduce that. So this is a choice that you guys will have in front of you. The task force recommended a tiered model like this.
Council President Starr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So if I recall correctly, when we were looking at that hotspot map, right? We had conversations about this. And for example, there's a hotspot there at Dearborn and River Road, right?
Familiar with.
Yeah. And so the call volume to that particular hotspot, right, is in part what drove setting this to $20 versus that one hotspot being the same as the single family residence. Right. Thank you.
So let me show you some examples of how this would actually work. This is, again, I used the property, this is Popeyes, it's on Lancaster. I used some properties outside of Kaiser, so as not to pick on any business here. So this is, I look at their impervious service, calculating it from using geographic information system. The store in the parking lot has approximately 20,821 feet of impervious surface. And you divide that by 3,000, it comes to 6.94. That gets rounded to the nearest 3,000, so it would be rounded up to 7. And then it would fall in with this 1 to 9 ESU bracket. So $20 times 7, they would pay $140 a month for a police fee under this model. So I'll step it up here. This is Harbor Freight. And outside of Kaiser, and I don't know the actual calculation, how much of this parking lot is attributed to them. So this is a big estimate on my part, but there's their building and some parking related to them. That came out to 54,000 square feet. You divide that by 3,000 and you get 18.025. That would be rounded to the nearest increment is 18. And they would be in the 2250 bracket. So their bill would come out to $405 a month. And then to look at a big box store, lastly, is Home Depot. I use them because we have a similar property. And their store and parking lot, their impervious surface was 311,703 feet. That came out to 103.9, which would be 104 ESUs. And their monthly police fee would be $2,600 if we were located in the city under this model. One of the exercises, and I don't have it in here, but we looked at $1.23 and kind of compared it next to this rate structure and found that it really wasn't far off as far as what a tax bill would be on a levy versus a fee. And so I think there's some comfort in that. But then there's was also, well, should it be the same or should it be more? I mean, it's a choice. But it was, came up to somewhat similar results. So, a good question I got from Counselor Duran, which really helped, preparing the, presentation was, he said, you know, how would we figure that out? What our ESU was. So I took, here's a couple examples. Here, this is a residential house. It may not be my house. Because it's the account number and address and stuff is blocked out. But the stormwater fee here is $16.34, which as we bill bi-monthly. So that's 2 months of our stormwater fee. So our stormwater fee was $8.17. And that's one ESU. So let's look at a different business. This is a business in Kaiser, which will remain nameless, but it's a commercial business. And their stormwater fee is $596.52. So if my arithmetic is correct and I divide that by 17, and I'll get 36.5 ESUs.
You know, it isn't the car wash, they're only paying $99 for water.
Yeah, this is a business that actually doesn't use a whole lot of water, as you can see there. So that would be how somebody would figure it out. So I think that's important. We'll keep these slides online and maybe explain. Maybe we'll do a short video on a page that says, here's how we would figure out how it might impact your business. The question was naturally came up, well, how many people, places do we have that fall into each one of those brackets? So this was one of the tables that we presented to the task force. The single family residential, 10,717, and the smaller commercial 1 to 9 ESUs, 323, and 91 in the 10 to 50 and 12 in the over 50. And then government irrigation. Explain what irrigation is. You know that? Yeah, sure.
So the question was, what is irrigation? So irrigation would be like the sprinklers to water the fields at Whitaker Middle School. Or if there's a homeowners association, they may have a separate meter that just does the sprinkling of their lawns, that kind of a thing. That would be irrigation.
Thanks. I actually wasn't sure of the answer myself.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can you talk me through government? If we have 13 government, I would assume buildings. Why are they only one ESU?
I think I would have to look back at our stormwater policies, just to get the right information. That may be not the right number, for governments. I think the assumption probably with this model is that there may be some exemption of government agencies. I know that does include some of the city parks in that number as well. I'll have to look into that one for you.
Yeah, that would be great, because I would be curious, like who allows for that exemption? Is that us?
Yeah, that would be correct, yes.
Okay, so schools would be considered government.
Correct. I think the only folks in there are the Salem Kaiser School District and some of the city-owned properties.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and so there's some policy decisions that I'm going to address in a couple of slides that exactly what you're talking about.
Before we go into that, we have people here that I would like to be able to hear from before we go into policy discussion. So let me know when we're at that pause point.
So, yeah, and I'm going to just kind of go over what the policy options are to be considered. And then before we end, and then afterwards, then go into those. So,
Okay.
yeah. So the task force recommendation that says here was to prepare a smooth fee model to meet the necessary funding to keep our police department whole over the 5-year period. And this is what it looks like on the full rate model. This is not something that's slide friendly, but it is, you'll be able to see it much easier in our report.
Yeah, page 83 of the packet, if you're following along in the print.
So, policy options that we'll discuss later after public comment is, do you want to offer discounts to multifamily and mobile homes? The current draft counts multifamily units and mobile homes as one ESU, I believe. And so, again, that's one for discussion, not the current stormwater fee, but the current rate model that we put together. Second one, are there any exemptions? There were some cities that gave churches exemptions. And for if you're charging your own government, it's just circulating the burden back out onto everybody. So does that make sense also? Then let's see. Yeah, there's our apartments and then our churches and then the timing.
Question, Councilor Christopher.
We currently give a discount for mobile homes.
Look to my colleague here for that.
They currently get the multifamily rate. Because typically they have 1 meter for the entire mobile home area.
Apart.
Right. So the mobile home park, typically have 1 meter and we get them the multifamily rate. Based off of the assumption that they're not gonna be 100% full. And also there's likelihood that there's probably some low income folks in that area as well.
Okay, so how does that work? What is the multifamily rate? So what would that be in police fees? So if that, yeah, what would that be?
Gosh, I mean,
So currently it's $5.50. That's the discount. But it's per mobile home pays $5.50.
that's correct.
Okay. Okay.
Versus the 650.
Yeah.
No, because we don't. Because I think, and this was the question that I asked, because I think it was at the task force, but. When we figured that discount, it was to take into account the vacancy rates at the time, right, back in 2017, when there were higher vacancy rates in the multifamily units, right? That weren't gonna be using the water, but they were on 1 water meter. But then I asked the question. What's the vacancy rate now? Right, and so now we don't have a vacancy rate for all intents and purposes. Because I think it's like below 3%, which essentially is a 0% vacancy rate. So now we don't have a vacancy rate.
So follow up, but that really is not applicable to police services. Because every one of those dwelling units could potentially use police services, just like Dan, just like Kathy, just like. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
as a
Yeah,
family resident.
yes, okay, thanks.
In the appendix,
One more question?
Yeah, one more
Just
question.
more.
So in the rate model that you gave us, did you give mobile homes a discount?
We did not, no.
Okay, great. Thanks.
so in the appendix, you'll be able to kind of, the exceptions and discounts and stuff most of them are in there. In these 3 pages. And you probably want a bigger copy of it if you haven't got this up.
Yeah.
But you'll be able to read all the.
2.5. It won't look good on my computer.
Yeah, it was meant to print on a ledger size and
Yeah.
fold it like mine, so
Yeah. Come on.
carefully to certify.
There's an app for that too, by the way.
Yeah.
An app for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the other policy option that you'll want to consider is do we split this into two decisions? As in, one decision is, do we go to a tier rate from a flat rate? And then the other decision is, when do you, look at the increase, to the, fee? So. And then, implementation and enactment, will the council make this determination, or would you seek an advisory vote? And our attorney mentioned last week that we don't currently have the authority to have an advisory vote, but that is really only an ordinance away. So it could be, the simple ordinance could allow the city to have advisory votes.
Well, I'm going to remind us that we actually dealt with this with the library. What the city council did was we passed the fee, but did not enact it until after the vote was taken. And then based on the vote, then the council chose to not enact it. So that is an option that we've used before. Councilor Christopher.
How do we do the advisory vote if we don't have the authority to do an advisory vote?
The library.
So you, there's two things to do, you either pass a new ordinance and then, so. The way that the election laws work for our city is our charter incorporates state election law. And then any ordinance that we have. We don't currently have any ordinances, so under state law, we only have the ability to refer something. Like this, the city can refer it itself, we can have a referral, but that has to be called legislative enactment. And legislative enactment is pretty much. So pretty much, we have to like pretty much ordinances, so it's also called municipal legislation. In the case law and in the law, but the long and the short of it is, you can only refer when you actually legislate, and for cities, that's primarily ordinances.
Okay.
You can get into arguments about whether or not certain resolutions act more like ordinances or not, but it's safer just to pass an ordinance, so that people don't argue with you about it and give that. But you can also just then pass our own ordinance that allows for us to go to advisory votes, and then you can just have advisory.
Follow up. So as our legal authority, in your legal opinion, isn't that just a good idea anyway? Just to have an ordinance for advisory votes from now until whenever, because how can we anticipate what we would like to hear from our?
If you guys want to have another tool in your toolbox.
No.
So if I'm kind of looking around and saying like, hey, everybody wouldn't mind having that extra tool, we can bring that to you at the earliest we can, which is, within a few needs.
And in your legal opinion, is that a good idea?
Well, it's another tool in the toolbox, and there's no downside to just having an extra ordinance on the books that allows.
So that's a yes, okay.
The proof is in the pudding, right? So it's like how well or not you use it and when you use it. 'Cause
Sure.
I would always advise, and this is more in the assistant city manager, finance directors daily work, but if you were constantly going out in downtimes and cost a lot of money, say you always go to the advisor.
We would never do that.
If you choose to do it during general elections, then that's not the cost.
Oh, how much does it cost?
Well, the town our size with the mailers, I believe it's over 30,000.
No, I mean, how much does it cost if we go out on a regular election like May or November?
I believe,
That's right.
Look over at, our quarter, I don't think we pay anything.
No, it's zero.
Because the mailer all goes out through the Secretary of State.
It's a good price. Okay, great.
If you can wait, again, it's all about timing. So before we get into that, I think we need to hear from folks.
Yeah.
We already took our break. Do we need to, because it's noon, so I would like to hear from people here. So with that, we want to open up the floor, come on down. And all I ask, since we are recording, just state your name, city of residence, and you have 5 minutes.
I'm Susan London, and I just have one tax question. Mr. Brown said that whether we do the levy or the fee, the amount of revenue would be similar. If we do it as a levy, that's on our property taxes, that makes it tax deductible. If we do it, is that also tax deductible?
Oh, gosh, that's a good question.
Mr. Wood,
For the general residents at home, no, it would not be. However, if you're paying property taxes as part of a rental or a business or whatnot, then yes, it still would be tax deductible.
thank you, thank
Good question, Susan.
We got a CPA.
you. Yeah, anybody else with questions or comments? Come on down.
I had to check my watch because when I wrote it this morning, I wrote it as the meeting, not there anymore. Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, Council and staff. Thank you for doing this work. I think it's important work. I think it's hard work, and I think that what you're doing is important to dive into this very necessary conversation. One of the things I appreciate is Chief Copeland was not a very good presenter. He's a great cop. He's a damn good police chief. And for him to sit here today and be worried about the future of our department is concerning for a lot of reasons. Because as a city, we've operated on a shoestring budget for almost the entire time we existed. 10 years ago, did you ever think we would have given our Little League fields to an out-of-state company? Think about that for a moment.
Can't believe it now.
Okay. So I want to share a couple thoughts. Chief, no disrespect. Appreciate it very much. As the state continues to enforce bad policy down the throats of local jurisdictions like House Bill 2001, CFAC, and many others, these unfunded mandates continue to harm our local jurisdictions. I live in one of the most boring neighborhoods in the city. A few years ago, the DAA raided a house within 50 yards of me. Can you imagine the impact it had on my, at the time, probably 10-year-old son and daughter as they're going to school, watching officers they know tell them get in the car and get out of here? I live in the most boring neighborhood in the city. 2 years ago, the Civic Center cleanup, we had an individual that stole a coat from a kid, an ROTC kid that was just trying to work and do good things. Within 10 minutes, he was trying to rob a house just across the street. Thank God I had a chief here and 2 lieutenants. But even with those guys showing up and trying to engage as he's trying to break into the house and successfully breaking into the car, it still took 15 minutes for officer to respond. And we're right here. Unfortunately, like I said, we had the chief and a couple lieutenants there, but we got him out of there. But it's just one of those things that shows the ugly underbelly of what exists in our city that nobody really wants to admit to. As the policies from the state continue to impact the city of Kaiser, our services are wearing thin. Ben Crosby and our crew team are amazing, but there are just a couple of people targeting code violations that have much deeper implications than a trailer sitting on the side of the street or a tall lawn. Crew is growing, but again, they're working to hide the dark underbelly, things that we don't want to talk about when we're sitting around joking and having fun little conversations while we're out with our friends. Those things matter. It matters because of livability. Those things the chief said could potentially go away. But I want you to stop and think about some of the things that we're seeing within our city. I want you to take a look at one of our major intersections at any point, spend an hour out there. In that course of an hour, you're going to see at least 30 to 60 people run red lights. And these are not just bright orange, they're deep red. Just last week, I saw a woman who was quite old almost get hit by a dump truck flying through River and Lock Haven at 7:30 in the morning. She's trying to cross the street. She was well across the street, going across on southbound on River Road, and almost got hit by the dump truck. Because that dump truck was a little bit too eager to get back out on the Ventura Road to do his job. Selfishly, I think we have one of the best cadet programs in the Mid-Atlantic Valley. We do an amazing job in our city of working with and training young people to be ready to make the choice to go into law enforcement. Detective Darce is a prime example of the grow your own here at home. And he is a brilliant mentor, along with Sergeant Kenniston and all the other officers that choose to work with these young people. That is the lasting investment that helps build the core of our police department from within. And I think that really matters because it shows investment. Because they can go somewhere else and make a lot more money if they choose to stay here and take care of the things they've invested in and love. I want to leave you with a couple thoughts. The services demanded by the city have increased at a rate that we cannot pay for on our own with meager taxes the city receives off property taxes, and we all know this is no secret. We also don't want to be Portland. We don't want to be taxing Netflix so we can have fun little things like art projects throughout the city. We're not talking about new fun things, folks. We are talking about the core principled services that we need. You guys put the library fee out to a vote because it was necessary. It wasn't something we were doing as a city. Do we want a library? Maybe, but we've only done the things to take care of the things we have. Not extra. If you continue to refer this to the vote of the people, I really want you to be thoughtful about a couple things. One, yeah, it's great to get it on a general ballot because it doesn't cost us anything. But if you put this on the same ballot as the gas tax, you have zero hope to pass this. Zero. I just hope that you please do the work.
Go ahead and finish your.
You inform people, you educate people, you communicate and continue to educate as you move forward on a ballot, if that's what you choose to do. This is much more than a simple yes or no. I want to leave you with a question. If the answer is no, then what? I appreciate your time. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Lawyer? Thank you. Next. Come on down.
Tammy Coons, Kaiser, Oregon. I have my individual hat on at the moment. And then I'll talk about the neighborhood association for a second. I want to thank you, Chief. You have done a lot out in our community. You've worked with people to get the neighborhood watch going. You've done a lot in my community alone. You have all Kaiser, so thank you. Personally, I support a fee. I can't back a levy because it takes away from programs that I know people utilize, like our discount program. Thank you for the tier program. I absolutely love it on a personal level because I think it levels the playing field. To put on my neighborhood association hat for a moment. The neighborhood association had me write a letter in support of the fee. They will not back the levy because again, it ties your hands in being able to meet needs for people in the community. They also asked about the tier program and thank you for sharing all that this past week at our meeting. It was totally enlightening. And when you were done and people heard your calls for service for February and all that this force does to keep Kaiser safe, mine and Jackie's phones have not stopped. With sincere thanks for everything that you do. We send out, once the minutes get approved, it'll go out to about 350 residents that are on our email list. And I post them on Nextdoor, Facebook, and some of our Ring folks get them. And they're all in support of a fee. And I know that a lot of them are watching right now on YouTube because my phone has been going off like crazy. Mainly about the tier program and leveling the field to take some of the burden off parts of the community that really can't afford the increase. So thank you for all the work you've done. Thank you for the task force fee. Thanks for putting up with all our comments off and on throughout. I really appreciate your hard work and dedication. Thanks.
Any questions from Ms. Coons? We're good. What do we have? Anyone else? Meeting.
Hello, everybody. First of all, my name is Amy Bryan Corser. I'm a Kaiser resident and previous city councilor and have been on the budget committee and done a lot of work in with our budget and these fees, and it's been something I've been passionate about for a long time, as if you know that's true. I thank you, Madam Mayor, for hosting this, and counselors, and for all that you do, and staff, for all that you do all year long. I don't think you're appreciated enough, so thank you so much. And thank you for putting this together, because we need our eyes open in the community. I know the attitude is we want to protect the community, but I think the community needs the honest truth about the suffering and what we're struggling with. Because then how do you make good decisions financially if you don't have all the facts? So I do think that's relevant. I have like 5 million pages of notes, all so fabulous, but let me try to just really keep it simple. Obviously, this is not a new issue, the police budget, not a new issue. I do want to speak directly to, in 17 as a counselor, we did pass as a council, a police fee. And we looked at it very hard. I want to reiterate the amount of work that went into that with Mr. Lawyer, and we had a whole committee. We spent 2 years on it. We spent thousands of hours on it, and I'm happy to share more details since I don't have a lot of time now. If anybody wants to know what we went through, we mailed to every household. We went to businesses. We knocked door to door. We really, as we were very proud of the community engagement, which was something that we've always kind of struggled with, I think. So we were proud of our work. It passed with an 83% approval rating of the community. So I want to reassure you a little bit, as we just heard, people recognize the need. I do want to also place an emphasis on the police activity that we've had recently. I am a lifelong Kaiser resident. I am passionate about Kaiser as you probably know, but when I hear, and I was just at the intersection when the man was shot in the head when the bullet went through between both of his children. When do we have the opportunity to take this seriously? Now's our time. We've been on a slippery slope for a long time. 10 years ago, we were talking about the slippery slope and kicking the can down the road. We kept talking about it. And I know there's so much on our plates as a community to take care of, but I think we're getting wake-up calls. Does a wake-up call matter when it's one of our loved ones or when it's our husband or our grandchildren? When do we say enough is enough? And so I think being able to stand up strong as leadership, as you are so respected in our community, and say, this is what we felt was the best for our community and this is why, whatever that decision is, I think you should be proud of it, and we should get behind you and rally and push it forward. And communicate why, because that's so much, we see the numbers, but we don't always see the supporting documents. And that's why I think this is so important, is to share how we got here, what the decision that you made was and why you made it. And to not be afraid of it politically or personally, because you're a group that is doing a very important work in here in our city. My dream also is to have a fully funded police. I tried to win the billions. If I could have, we'd be talking a whole different story right now. I would happily write a check, which makes me think there are creative opportunities. We have a lot of creative minds. How can we find more money? It's not going to be today, obviously, and I don't want to kick the can down the road anymore. So this discussion is relevant. But I do think, have we thought about things like, gifting to the city and people that put us in their wills or we're a benefactor. I think there's opportunities to get creative outside the box. I'd love to be a part of that conversation in the future as we move forward. I think there are opportunities. Benevolence for a lottery. Okay, I love it. Whatever that looks like. I do think that the city is judged by the quality of police that we have. We have excellent, passionate police, but it's our economic development in the future as we're trying to bring businesses and residents and ensure safety and look good to the community. We still have the importance of making those decisions so that we can be viable and economically sound and reassure the community and the businesses that we are here to serve them. And we have their best interest in mind. So with that, I will close with just saying, I know this is a tough decision for all of you. I respect your decision no matter what. I'm grateful for each one of you. But I do think that public safety should be government's #1 priority. And I think, again, we can't wait for more emergencies. We've had not just a tough month, but there's a lot of crime. I've been victims. We've all known victims of crimes. We have to show and enforce that we are viable, strong, and resilient, and not just a great fun, like this is where you want to be, but we've done a good job of that. Now we have to reassure that we'll be viable and strong going into the future, and that we cannot continue to kick this down the road. So thank you for all that you do, and I appreciate each one.
Oh, right on the money.
I didn't plan it with 5 million pages of notes, I couldn't talk for an hour. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Microphone's still open. I'm looking at the 3 people who have 4. Going? Going? Looking at. Nope, okay. All right. Thank you very much to the people who spoke, and we know that people will send in public comment that gets sent to our city reporter. And that's visit at kaiseror.gov, so we encourage people to send a written comment as well. With that, let's go to the next steps. This is a work session. So we will be discussing, no decisions get made today. We cannot do that in a work session. Any decisions will have to be on an agenda published for the community to see and to comment. So want to just put that out there. So we do have the outline for discussion points that came from Mr. Brown. And so we can talk through these and express where we have questions, want more information, and what we want to see coming forward for council consideration. Councilor Clover, you had your hand up?
I did. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to make a comment that as a council, we've been very concerned about our police officers, the work that they can do, and what's going on. We try to help them in any way, like with the license plate readers, with the drones, with all kinds of different tools that have allowed you so far to continue to be the kind of police force that we desire here in town. And so I just want to acknowledge that we love our police officers. We value the work that they do, and we're trying to make sure that we are giving you all the tools that you need in order to be the job.
Thank you, Councilor Christopher.
Thank you. So, what I would be interested in hearing from the chair of the task force is what their recommendation is. Can we start there with, because you have one, right? Yeah, can we start with what is your recommendation? Is that appropriate? And then once we talk about what the recommendation is, what Madam Mayor, I don't know what you sensed, but I sensed there was a consensus for the advisory ordinance. Is that accurate?
But I would like to handle that in a separate conversation, because I think that's open for discussion.
Okay. Well, I guess I'd like to start there and then the recommendation.
Although I think that there's 2 different things. One is the methodology by which we believe going forward for funding, and then the methodology on implementation. Those are 2 separate conversations, because the second one has options. But if we're talking levy, then we gotta go straight into talking about elections. We're talking fee. And we want to ask staff to come back with particular information on that, then I think we need to be clear on that. Council President Strong.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the recommendation from the task force was to, and I think you've seen that recommendation, right? In our presentation, was the fee model. What we recommended was the tiered structure for the commercial businesses utilizing the ESU framework. We also recommended that we create the equitable residence fee, meaning your single family resident and or property owner is paying $690, but we had discounts for multifamily units. So we recommended that those become equal, and we remove that discount for vacancy, and that would include the mobile manufactured home discount. So everything is equal. So multifamily complex would pay the same per unit as a single family residence. And same with manufactured homes. We also just lost my train of thought. The reasoning, a big portion of the reasoning for the fee was we felt the benefits of the fee model outweighed, I think, some of the constraints of a levy. So in some of the modeling that we saw from our city staff, there were years where the fee would go down. Because of where capital purchasing for cars, etc., laid out in the purchasing timeframe, so the fee would go down. We don't have that ability with property taxes. Because it's a set fee or a set levy amount for 5 years on the property tax. So there was no flexibility to adjust it. There was also no flexibility for a discount program. So you have somebody that owns their home that is on a very fixed income of $1,800 or $2,100 from Social Security. They can't ask for a discount on their property taxes, where they can request that from the fee structure that we proposed. So when you look at all that, there was more flexibility in the fee rather than in the property tax levy. So we went with the fee model.
Question, I've got a question, I'll go to you, Counselor Christopher. On the multifamily, is you're saying to the same rate per door, would that also be true of a duplex, tri or quad, where it's per door rather than one?
Yes.
Okay, so a duplex would pay, both sides would pay separately.
Correct, because the thinking is you have a family in each, right? So you might have and even thinking, if you have an 1,800 square foot home that someone owns by themselves, they're paying the same fee as somebody who might live in a 1,500 square foot townhouse on their own by them. So there's equity in every door paying $690.
And is the recommendation that the $690 float up to the recommended level? Are we talking about the rate structure that we were presented as bringing up each of those tiers to what we need to be sustainable for the upcoming budget year?
We did not talk about the amount, right? We talked about the structure. So we didn't come back, there is not a recommendation from the task force that it be the 1225. We just talked about the structure itself, equalizing that and adopting the tiered commercial ESP framework.
Okay, so it would create the structure, and then what we saw from staff was if we were to have this this tiered structure, this is what it looks like for the different levels to put us back full with the cost of providing police services under today's real life costs. Is that correct?
Yeah. When we started this work last fall, we were July, August, we were not even a full 3 months into the new fiscal year. So we would have no idea where we were at in terms of fund balances to carry it. So it was just way too early to even complete that work. So to come up with amounts, and that's really not, I don't think, our purview, because we don't have that data, right? We take that from our subject matter experts who know what it's gonna cost to operate and what gap we have, what fiscal gap we have to close.
So you're recommending that we're looking at a structure, and then the actual dollar amounts to go into those slots would then be a recommendation from staff to go through the budget process. Is that what I'm hearing? I'm getting head nods. Yes. Council Christopher.
So did you talk about indexing the fee? Did you give consideration to that so that when you're I know, I mean, the change, you know, you said they're changing every month. We know costs go up. We know that we get approximately 3% increase a year, and we know that cost increases exceed that 3%. But if it was at least indexed, I mean, did you have any conversation about that?
We didn't talk about indexing because the modeling that we got allowed the fiscal modeling that we've received from staff and one of the multitude of reports that we asked from them, bless their hearts, went down. So if you index a fee and you put that indexing on it, it doesn't allow for you to go down.
No, but then well, we can beat that around, but if that, I mean, that would allow us to collect fees because we know it's gonna go up the next year because we're gonna buy cars. Okay, my next question is, currently, the city budget, police is about 75% of our city budget. If we implement, based on the numbers that you gave us, what percentage of our police, excuse me, what percentage of our city budget does police continue to be?
It would still continue to be the same amount.
So we're gonna continue to fund police through our general fund budget at the amount that we're doing currently, and this is the gap.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Now, and my last question is, I think that I think we made a great error in 2017. I'm not blaming anybody. In the way that we put those fees, I think our businesses have gotten, a free ride for 10 years. So I can full-throatedly support that it's time, and based on the call volume, it's time that they pay the accurate representation of the services that they're using. I think it should have been that way all along. Likewise, I think that the discounted rate, I agree, every home, every family should pay equal amounts, the single families. And if that's a duplex, there's two families living there. So I think that they should pay for that. Where I have a problem is businesses did not pay for that before. Now I tend to feel that in your recommendation, there's a bit of a gouging, and that is they're paying $20 instead of the $12.25, when really, if equal, it would be everybody pays the same amount. They're larger, they have more service, so they pay a higher amount, and they would. That didn't happen before. It was $6.90 for all of us. So I'm glad you got that 10 years, but now it's time to pay a fair amount. So I guess what I'm saying is, I feel that that is a bit of a gouge to take those up to 20 and 25 when we're really talking about ESU size, and it should be equal amounts, but based on the size. That's all I want to say. Thank you very much.
Councilor Durant.
I have a follow-up to hers. Let's say you didn't do the $20 and you did the $12.25. From my basic math skills, it would not be $12.25 for everybody, it'd be like 14 to 15 to.
What would it be?
The total. Do you have a number for that? If we didn't do the tiered rate, how much would everybody pay if it was the same for ESU?
Let me check. I think I ran that at some point in time.
Yeah, good. I want to know.
So, I've got one comment and question. The property taxes that are paid by the businesses have paid for and essentially subsidized the cost of providing services to residences. So one of the reasons a lot of cities don't want to see increase in residential construction is because it's a loss leader when it comes into paying for the services for the city. There's a reason that Salem does not want to annex Jan Re and Four Corners. immediately lose money. It's residential, or in the case of, Jan Reed, there's a huge swath of property that has no taxes, it's educational. So while the businesses have not paid an increased amount, they have been subsidizing through property tax through these years. That said, I do really appreciate the calculations looking at, how do we make the distribution of paying for services more equitable. I think this data is powerful. So, and I think it's going to equip other cities as they also are having these conversations about how we can look at it now and going forward. Things have changed. Things have changed. I think it's a great opportunity. So with that, my question, you want to say something and I'll go my question.
Just find it.
I did.
Okay.
Counselor Duran, don't underestimate your ability to do math in public. It is about 14 to 15 in that range.
Ooh, nice word. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you could do that.
You might kind of do this professionally. It shows. But I think that, what with the debate or the conversation that we'll have at budget, if we adopt a tiered structure, but I think that's a conversation for the council to say, this is the structure under which we believe it will be equitable for paying for police services. The numbers will then go into the budget process. So we can see how that plays out for the dollars going into police services. And to the point of that, this is something that we can adjust each year. So while indexing is a helpful tool, that will automatically happen if we have a structure and the budget process puts those numbers in year over year. The index will actually be calculated in. Because that's what we have to do with the rest of our budget. Everything has to be indexed according to what the actual costs have gone up to. The health insurance, the electric bill, all of those are already essentially indexed because they have to deal with reality. So we could use the word indexing as a guideline in how the fees are calculated each year and not restrict ourselves to that, perhaps. How we structure it is going to be based on actual cost, the level of service that we want to make sure that we maintain. Because I heard loud and clear, and it's stated very clearly in the study, yes, the level of service that we need with 41 sworn, and we're still short, and I read that loud and clear in here, that is putting a tremendous burden on our detective unit. And you can't keep up that pace of work for very long without burning people out completely, or the quality of work suffering. And that's not something anybody wants to have happen. But this was really, really clear. We anticipate, we're talking about filling the positions and so forth. At least 5 officers are expected to retire within the next 2 years, which will create further staffing challenges unless we are authorized to overhire. On average, a lateral hire requires approximately 3 months to complete the hiring process, followed by an additional 3 months of training before becoming fully operational. A new officer with no prior law enforcement experience requires approximately 9 months before they're able to serve independently. Mind you, you're paying for that person, we're getting them ready to go. People following along is page 86 of the study. And there was another section where it says that the morale is good, but it's strained. The intensity of the calls that our police officers are responding to will continue to drain their ability to keep their mental health and their family lives together unless we appropriately staff. So yes, we're talking about 41 now, but we're going to have to recognize this study also shows we're going to have to expand. Maybe not this year, but it's coming real soon on expanding the number of people that we hired here to do the job that we expect them to do and do it in a way where their humanity is protected. So yes, index, yes, look at the budget allocation, but we better be looking farther along with this 5 year that we're not going to be maintaining status quo. We can't. the data here is really, really clear. We need more people to help make sure that the good people can stay here. So there's one of my list of thoughts, thanks. I'm hearing fee. I'm hearing tiered structure. To come back for council consideration. Is that correct? I'm hearing, the flat rates for the residential, so per door. I'm not hearing exemptions, but we will maintain our program that we already have for senior discounts. If people need it, and this is when people ask for it because of need. Correct? So we already have control over that. No, does anybody want changes in that? You know, sir.
Madam Mayor, I think in my mind, there's work being done on a discount program for people that are not considered senior. That we asked in one of our short-term goals. So if somebody is on, 50 and on disability or something like that. So I would ask that this that be applicable to this as well. When that program is adopted, that would be my other request, because I think there's that's a fair request as well.
Ms. Wood?
That work is in process, so we can accommodate that request.
Okay. Okay, the tiered. So now we have the issue of, and I think this would probably come to the budget committee, what we're gonna do, or if it's a decision for us coming up soon, whether we're going to do this in 2 phases. Thank you, there was the slide. If we want staff to bring us back an implemented tiered rate now and do rate increases later, or do this simultaneously. Councilor Christopher.
I would like to see, so we're already paying $690. I would like to see the tier rate implemented now based on the $690 that we're committed to, or whatever. Yes, I would like to see that happen, and I would also like to see the discount program be eliminated for this budget cycle based on the $690.
The cycle we're in, or the cycle we're about to go into?
What?
Well, and because this goes into the question of, we have not implemented the cost of living.
Right.
In the index. For starting January 1, we've been waiting for this information, so
That's
we're
right.
talking about this year now.
Yes,
Because this is something we told the budget committee we would come back to.
yes,
Because anything the budget committee does doesn't go into effect until January of 27.
yes, I'm talking about this year now.
Right now, okay, so we need to have.
We know that this is the strategy that we're
Right.
going to do moving forward. So I think we should implement that, and this is why I wanted to hold off until we have this information. I think now we know our strategy, we know how we want to deal with the tiered rates. Let's do that based on what we already have.
And
Have you
so the
figured
other,
that out?
the other question is, are we going to implement it with the 690 or the index number, which was requested that by the budget committee last year?
If we implement the tiered system based on $690, does that take care of what we will need for 2026 because of the increase that will be paid in the tiered strategy?
Yes and no. It will cover the initial dollar amount that we were talking about last year. It will not get the budget flush. We'll still be eating up that ending fund balance. So we'll still be working our strategy, but it will help the
It'll take care
situation.
of that, so we would not have to do an increase for 26. Then we can move forward with the bigger strategy of how we're gonna move forward.
Correct.
Okay.
I do have a clarifying question for you. When you said eliminate the discount, you're meaning on multifamily?
I am.
Okay,
Did you figure that in as well?
correct.
Okay, great. And those 2 factors will take care of the need for this year?
Correct.
Okay, great.
So what I would like to, though, in our deliberation, have both the 690 and the increased amount. So we have those numbers, because going into this, because your answer was partly. Because if we're eating into our ending fund balance, that is in conflict with our financial stability policies. We have to have that ending fund balance, because we need to roll that over into the next year. We've got to make sure that we remain true to our very conservative fiscal policies.
So let's see both of them.
So if we can see both, and then we can have that, and then the public can see both. And what that will look like before we adopt it, but we can make an informed decision.
Great.
Perfect. Okay, so this will be for the 2026 year, and then we'll have to have a conversation whether we go retro to January 1 or from here going forward, and we can make that decision. So would you do that based on retro to January 1, which probably the terrible idea since we've already.
Terrible idea, yeah. Terrible idea.
Or that would be effective upon passage.
I'd say that.
Okay, I'm good with that. Effective upon passage.
I would recommend, obviously it's your choice, but we do need a little bit of time to let the commercial folks know that their bill is gonna go up.
So April.
So if we could give them a little bit of time, I don't know if that's an April 1st or if that's a May 1st timeline. It's something to consider as you deliberate.
Okay.
And get this information to the Chamber of Commerce. We need to engage our businesses so they know what it is that we are considering here and why. And if they want to have a government affairs presentation, that I know I can make myself available. Council President Jamie Starr as the chair. If you are available, I know you have a crazy busy hour job. I will
Take vacation.
Okay, so we can make ourselves available to have the conversation with the Chamber of Commerce about what the proposal is. Again, we're not going to be delivering in advance, but we want them to see these numbers. And be able to ask questions on the report and on what the tier looks like. So that we can get additional feedback, so they can talk about what the cost benefit is for our local business community. So I think that's gonna be an important part of the conversation. Okay. Next.
So, and lastly on that list is, in your blessing to go out and give this presentation or a shortened version of it probably to whoever will have us and listen.
No, let's keep it secret so nobody ever can see this information.
But are we, Mayor?
Yes, Councilor.
But are we ready for that? I mean, we, the council, haven't adopted what the rate is going to be, so I think that needs to happen fairly quickly so that you can get on the road. You know, you need your tour to start. I think it's very problematic to go out and give this information. I think it's great information, but everybody's gonna say, what's the bottom line? What's it gonna cost me? And we don't know yet. So we need to get on that quickly so that you have the tools that you need to take that show on the road.
That's Wilson Star. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, and I think probably part of what that request is, Mr. Brown, if I am on the same line of thinking as you, is my edit to that request for Mr. Brown would be, can we just start working on that roadshow?
Okay.
And knowing that, yes, we will wait until after we
But put
have
it
the count.
plan together.
But I mean, we need to, you know,
No, good idea.
have
Get a plan
what that's
together.
gonna look like. Who do we wanna reach out to, like, get our plan and plan of action down. So that, I think, is what we've had conversations, and I think that is the kind of the part one of the request.
Yes.
Let's
Get started.
And I remember, I think, what you had talked about town hall in a box.
That was me.
Yes, this would be that. If we have that, any of us could take this. And do presentation in a box.
As long as we have coming out with us.
Aw, okay. That we would be able to take this and have that information available to, so there are 7 of us. So we can team up to help get this information out once we have the town hall in a box. So. We're good on this part. Okay, the other question. go back to the, that, okay. Okay, so the question was, we got that one done, we got that one done. I think we did that one. Oh, would you adopt a 5-year plan or make an annual decision based on each year's calculation? Annual. Engage the community, oh, heck, yes. I think the other part of the question, that I said I would come back to it, is, the issue of if and when to put anything on the ballot and under what conditions, and I think that's a, conversation we need to have and what that looks like and why. What is the ask to the voters? Is this going to give us information? And this is something that, and you and I both know this, but for folks watching, the charter would still require, because it's a fee, it still comes back to the council. So we are ultimately, according to city charter, the ones who adopt and we're the ones responsible for any fees. That's why all these come to us. Councilor Christopher.
So I would like to ask Mr. Lindsay to bring back to us an ordinance for advisory votes, not just for this, but I agree with you. I'm always talking about giving me the maximum flexibility to be able to make public policy decisions. I want that tool. I think we all want that tool for a myriad of different reasons. So I would like to ask that we ask Mr. Lindsay to bring back a potential ordinance for us for consideration.
So I like having information. Data is helpful. I've seen cities where they've used it well and others have used it
No,
very
that's
poorly.
really council.
Well, yes, and so I think that's important for us to have that conversation. So getting information, models, also looking at our charter, what our charter requires that we do is going to be very helpful. So people need to understand that the charter that we adopted, that we voted, the voters of Kaiser adopted recently, is the one that we're operating under. And I know, Mr. Lindsay, you're very famous for saying, well, it's on the rules, it's up to us, but yes, and is the charter. What Patty Mulvihill from LLC always says, check your charter. And that is our governing document.
And what I'll say, just so you know, like currently where we sit, because we have to follow the state, is you guys would have to pass an ordinance of some sort. And then ask just to see whether or not the voters want to pass it. You can still go to the voters with an ordinance, but you have to, either enact it or say it's on pause until you get the answer. Whereas this would just be a tool to say advisory, non-binding vote. And you can judge what the value of asking for a non-binding vote is versus enacting an ordinance and then asking if that ordinance should stand close. Because I'm not saying we don't have the tool to go to, so when we went to the library, you actually passed an ordinance that said, this is what the fee's gonna be and this is what we're gonna do. And then you put it on pause and only said, we'll enact this after the vote, and then the vote went out and it's like 58-42 or whatever it was against it, so that it did get enacted. So I just want to be clear, there is an ability to go to the voter, but it means you have to do something yourself and pass a law yourself currently. You can do the light version of that, which is ask for the advice on that fee one. And so if you want to ever have that tool, it's an issue.
Right, and then, folks, if we can have that conversation, in a public setting about what is the value, what are we trying to get from that? How is that compared to doing our surveys, which engage with people, who are paying the fees but cannot vote here. Business owners who pay fees but do not vote here because this is not their residence. So we have to also look at who is getting the say so. It's not always, the voters are not always the people paying the fee.
Let's debate that. So
let's have that conversation about what that looks like and
Okay.
the directions in which that would happen. With good information to, and that might be something that we have to have a separate work session on to work through the nuances. Depending on which to bring back. So just keep that in mind.
great. Pretty good.
Did you guys get the information that you need? I'm looking at Mr. Brown, Mr. Wood, Ms. Bissett, Chief, Mr. Lindsay. Do you need anything else from us?
See.
Okay. All right, council, anything else that you need before we conclude our work today? I wanted, again, a huge thank you to Danny, Kyle, and Dan as the task force, to the city staff led by Pete and Mr. Brown, Mr. Wood, and everybody who participated in producing this report. Thank you, everybody who came today and who's watching online. This is going to be a tremendous process, and I'm so proud that Kaiser is figuring it out. With that, ladies and gentlemen, time is 12:45 and we are adjourned.
Information.